Hello and welcome to Benno and Hamflett in Your House, a podcast reviewing WWE's iconic New Generation B shows in order from the bust back to the boom, and just occasionally appears on your podcast doorstep with a special delivery. I'm Michael Hamflett.
And I'm Benno, and yes, we will, I guess we'll thank the Fed for this special delivery. In the words of Ghostface Killer, it's time for a bit of heart and a bit of soul, I would say, Michael. I think anybody worked it out what this show was going to be today.
I imagine we thought we were being dead clever while dropping the most obvious clues of all time in the houses in the last episode, because we were just so excited to get here, weren't we? For a number of reasons, some of which are rational, some of which are completely irrational, but feed into how wrestling fans look at these things. We realized we needed to build the bridge, not just between season 1 and season 2, but between Canadian Stampede and Ground Zero, which of course will be the start of our season 2 when we get going. And what better place to do it than, as you say, with a little bit of heart and a little bit of soul, with SummerSlam 1997, with a bit of discussion on the greatest finish maybe of all time. I don't know, is that up for debate? And potentially more excitingly, the run-up that got us there. Yet another month of simply deranged WWF Raw is War. Like itself at this point, something that I think in both of the back of our mind is becoming season 28 of Benno and Hamflett or something. Like the ugly truth, the stuff underneath these amazing segments with all of these stars having the years of their life. It's like, another Sultan match. Rockabilly. It feels like Raw that one day we'll get to, but right now, just like looking at the lives of these headliners, it's exhilarating, isn't it?
You've made me realise now, with all that build-up and the way you've described it, it would have been the greatest rib we could have pulled in the words of an Owen Hart, in the spirits of how him and Davey might have been backstage, maybe a little bit less mean-spirited than them. We could have made this, we're building up. You know what, lads, we're actually going to be doing, a very important SummerSlam that kind of bridges the gap. There's obviously, a bit of a three-way feud going on, and obviously there's the big spot with the referee. Obviously, I'm talking about Seth Rollins, CM Punk, and Drew McIntyre, and we're going to obviously... Maybe that will be like season 50 of Benno and Hamflett, where we lovingly talk that feud, maybe, and some of the influence that took from this thing. I think we're better off living in 1997, as we know well.
Look, one of these days we're going to sit on these microphones, and I'm going to convince you that bracelet was actually a good bit of law. But until that day comes,
that's all Bret was missing.
Well, I was going to say, let's instead look at what deranged content actually looked like in the 90s as opposed to the 2020s. Canadian Stampede, as we were joined by the Bret Hart boys was back in July. It was July the 6th, 1997. And SummerSlam was August the 3rd, 1997, historically quite early for SummerSlam. So there's less than a month actually between the two shows. A little bit of a tidbit, by the way. The reason SummerSlam was early, and indeed a few Fed shows were kind of coming earlier in the month, was because now that there was monthly pay-per-views with WWF and WCW, in their mind, it was better to be the first than necessarily just be the best. So the idea was, that's the one pay-per-view a month. In this case, SummerSlam, August 3rd. It's like, well, they probably won't have any money left to buy a WCW one. So it honestly meant more to be the first pay-per-view of the month, just in case you were worried that the Fed wasn't petty all the way back then and trying to counter-program and fend off evil billionaire Ted Turner. So that's why the schedules have tightened up a little bit. But also, the often talked about... Raw was brilliant in 1997 because it was in Canada one week and it was in America the next week and everything. Like everything in wrestling, it turns out it was just one big lie. They basically did it for a month and that was it. But the memories are so fond that this exact month we're going to speak about finds them jumping between the two countries for 4 consecutive Raws. And it's just something that stuck with people as this accepted truth that happened for 6 months, when in reality, you just got 4 very hot shows as WWF kind of stirred up this civil war between America and Canada just to sell a couple of pay-per-views.
It does feel that way. It's again, it's probably a memory thing and it's probably an age thing as well. But it is that this entire run, spoilers for the end of the show, Bret with the belt as heel champion and all of that, all of say the jingoism that brings in Del Wilkes, the Patriot along the line, and that we find ourselves in the middle of that. Speaking of one night only, when you get there, in my mind, in that time, it did feel like that. It did feel like a couple of year run. It did feel like a feud that stretched the entirety of 1997, and not just this weird. Again, the reason why SummerSlam 1997 works is this special delivery. It's this weird bridging event and bridging show and bridging period between even the 2 series of Benno and Hamflett, as well, as far as like bridging us from the 2 hour in your houses to the 3 hour in your house as well. So yeah, it is one of those ones where maybe that's just the impact of it and just how good it all is and how much quality is crammed in, like you say, to those individual Raws, that it does feel like a year's worth of storytelling. To be fair, in Triple H's 2026 WWE, that'll be about 5 years of storytelling. We just get all of the different WrestleMania main events out of these particular Raws. So maybe we should be careful what we wish for.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember on a couple of housekeepings ago, we talked about how sort of Stone Cold Steve Austin was suddenly in 7 segments, and now, as you say, that would count for like 7 weeks of television. But I think what they've potentially misconstrued or misunderstood was that because Steve Austin was in 7 segments and that was working incredibly well, what that means is that you need to feature your wrestlers like 7 times and it will definitely get them over.
Every wrestler.
The key ingredient there was Stone Cold Steve Austin. So there is I did sort of look at these Raws and how best to kind of approach this. This is like a one and does for us here. This special delivery. We'll throw in our brand of housekeeping in with the pay-per-view review. And the best way I've thought to do it is kind of look at the 4 Raws and just highlight the main event scene, because WWF is at very least still well booked that it kind of overlaps so elegantly from that 10-man at Canadian Stampede that like almost perfectly like feeds into several of the big matches at SummerSlam, and as we'll get to, like how high the stakes are. And it kind of, the very start of all of this like takes us to the July 7th Raw, which is the Raw after Canadian Stampede. Obviously, they're still in Canada. You know, they're in Edmonton now, so like all the Hearts come out in the Oilers jerseys. But the point is, it's Canada full stop. It doesn't matter, like, you know, your local team can be any team as long as it's a Canadian team, basically. And in this case, the Hearts obviously are Calgary's local team, but they're Edmonton's too. And there's a nice continuation that kind of kickstarts this month, which is something that we've seen, where the winner, the big winner from the prior pay-per-view, gets the shot at The Undertaker. We saw it with Farouk when he won that Nation of Domination match against Ahmed Johnson. We saw it with Stone Cold Steve Austin when he finally managed to beat Bret, albeit by DQ at Revenge of the Taker. And now we're getting it with Bret the Hitman Hart. The Hearts won the big match at Canadian Stampede, and in, you know, a rankings-less world, that was reasonable enough to make Bret the Hitman Hart the #1 contender. And what a place to announce it is here in Canada. Bret gets the enormous response you would expect. And he talks about America, and it gets all the heat and it gets the boos. And this is where what you get one of Bret's many iconic lines in this period, where he says, down there they say America, love it or leave it. Well, I'm looking forward to leaving it, because he's just so happy to be back in Canada again. And he's so
it's the look he gives the camera when he says that as well. Like he said the world's cleverest line. He's so fucking made up with himself.
There's a few like sort of Raws in a row where Bret thinks nobody has got a line as good as this on this show. And yeah, you can see how buzzed he is with it. He's basically kind of like buoyed by this atmosphere and by the arrogance and the Heart's victory and on top of the world. And what the heels do when they're on top of the world, they promise too big. They kind of get a bit too cocky and a bit overexcited. And he says on camera, on screen, with Vince McMahon's microphone in his face, if he can't beat The Undertaker in the SummerSlam, he'll never wrestle on American soil again. Now, this itself, of course, is a sort of a link to a stipulation that never occurred. This was the King of the Ring match with Shawn Michaels that didn't go ahead. They'd dropped that in as a punishment, basically, for Bret if he couldn't beat Shawn. So it's obviously something the company wanted to get to. But that gets like revisited as the weeks go on. And in the meantime, he wants to roll out the pink and black carpet to Owen Hart, the man who beat Stone Cold Steve Austin last night at Canadian Stampede. Steve Austin is referred to as the Great American Scum. Owen Hart is obviously thrilled with his victory, and he challenges Steve Austin to an Intercontinental title match at SummerSlam. He's beat him once, and he's going to beat him again. And then ruffle the hair of little Davey Boy Smith. He's in on it. He wants to get in on the action, and he says, I'll put my title on the line against Ken Shamrock, somebody that was on their team. We all won last night. We'll all win again at SummerSlam. Everything's great. So, the Hearts are feeling super confident and super happy with kind of like the way SummerSlam's going to go based on Canadian Stampede. But what about Stone Cold Steve Austin? Owen and Bulldog are in the tournament to fight Austin plus a mystery partner when WWF returns to America the following week in San Antonio. San Antonio of all places, and Shawn Michaels is fobbing off defending his tag title. Classic HBK. But if you recall, where we were last at with Steve Austin, was that he was rejecting the help of Mankind. Mankind couldn't make Team USA for Canadian Stampede. Austin wanted nothing to do with that long-haired freak, as he kept referring to him as. Mankind had started wearing the Austin 316 t-shirt, but obviously has
Pick me, Steve.
Pick me, Steve, but turned babyface as part of his feud with Triple H. It just so happens that Steve Austin wrestles Triple H on this July 7th Raw, which is, again, a lovely overlap. Mankind gets in the mix, and Austin appears to finally accept Mankind as his partner, then drills him with a stunner. Jim Ross says he's got the personality of a rattlesnake, and Mankind takes the microphone, upset that he's been hit with a stunner, and says, I'm going to take drastic measures that will change me, Steve Austin, and the WWF forever. Austin later goes on to say he's not asked who his partner is. Gorilla Monsoon can pick one if he wants. And as for SummerSlam against Owen, Austin sort of feels a little bit put out that Bret the Hitman Hart's the one laying the stakes on. He says, well, I can do that too. If I can't beat Owen Hart, I'll kiss his ass. I'll kiss it if I can't kick it at SummerSlam. So there you go. You've got your kind of the Harts starting this little kind of one-upsmanship war. There'll be more of that on Raw from San Antonio next week. You've got 3 massive matches set for SummerSlam, and you've got this continuing confusion over who on earth would want a team with Steve Austin as he continues his mini program with the Bulldog and Owen. It's just really great to watch and firing on all cylinders fed, isn't it? Like all the ducks are in a row. It's such a nice feeling. Like, you have faith in the booking when everything connects as nicely as this.
Absolutely, and it's one of those things, isn't it? As we can't talk through season 1, and like I say, we see the rise of Austin, which is, you know, the thing that rises all ships. It gets everybody's game up, doesn't it? It gets disparate characters, like you mentioned there, that weren't necessarily, you know, pulling up trees like your Bulldogs, like even your Owens at points in the first, you know, shows we looked at, are now like very important characters in like this. Let's all be honest, it's Stone Cold Steve Austin's world. Everybody else is just living in it, but everyone else can't help but get more excited. And it's just so interesting to see them realize that, you know, there are other points in WWE history where they might have something like this, you know, on the hands, and like old school or maybe even new school Vince McMahon might have gone, you know what, actually the money's in Sid. Let's just stick with Sid and let's put Steve to the background, and let's not go with these crazy ideas about making Bret Hart a heel, or, you know, getting, you know, revitalizing these particular characters and putting them all in the right place. Everything is just right, and that's why I think in this period it is so special. It's easy to say it's just Stone Cold Steve Austin and it's just the stars, but it's not. It's the writing, it's the other characters, it's the setting, it's the breaking of the format, as you mentioned there, with the amount of things and stuff that are happening over these 4 weeks, and eventually they would learn maybe you shouldn't burn through all of these things and all of this stuff, because we can't literally do this we would have liked it, but do this literally for the next 30 years or so. But right now is the time to do it. It's just this perfect storm that creates just this unbelievably compelling TV we got in this period.
It's going to be a bit of a theme as well for the good and the bad as well, of setting the stakes so incredibly high when we get to SummerSlam. In one case, you've got stakes that are set so high, you question how on earth they can book around it, and they nail it. And some stakes are set so bizarre that when a result suddenly might not go the way you need to for an injury, you have to do something insane to get it over the line. It's like they're not worrying about what happens when they get there. They're having trust in themselves to make it work.
It's funny because I was about to say it's, you know, the throwing shit at the wall era that kind of we were in for at least the first part of 1987. That shit is sticking on the walls right now. But let's not forget, they are still throwing a lot of shit at those walls, and you can imagine that creative meeting that involved, you know, the two Vinces, and probably, you know, we're taking pictures from Bret and the lads. It's like, well, what if we all had the stipulation on our match, and then Jim Neidhart's going, okay, so what about my match? What's the stipulation? And it's like, no, Jim, you don't need to work, mate, you're fine. But the rest of us, we're going to have something on the line, and that's going to be the story, and it's more, and it's hat on a hat. But when you're firing all cylinders, and when all of the pieces are in place, it's going to work, isn't it? And you can see it working here.
Well, yeah, let's. I'm glad you've used the phrase "shit" because it'll stop me being as kind to how some of this segment goes. As we are back in America for the July 14th edition of Monday Night Raw, the aforementioned San Antonio, Texas locale. We will get more from San Antonio's favorite son very, very soon. But the show once again,
not on the show, mate. Don't you mean? He's waiting for he's like Jim Neidhart. Him and Jim in a room going, why aren't we booked? What's going on?
I didn't check what was happening on the corresponder in Nitro, but I didn't see him turn up in the black and white. So far,
Didn't take the money.
Managed to hold on to him. But yeah, we're back in the ring. The Harts once again are kind of like Bret and Owen are very happy with their SummerSlam stakes and everything. And Bulldog wants to get in on it, and just classic Bulldog, just out of nowhere, he's like, "Yeah, I'll eat a can of dog food if I lose my title to Ken Shamrock." So that just exists now as a thing. You mentioned
Totally
the two Vinces in the room. How's Jim Cornette snuck in there with his bollocks as well? It's mad, isn't it? This is extremely Memphis. It's extremely Southern States wrestling, and yet it's being done with basically the WWE's first crop of boom wrestlers in like 5 or 6 years. It's such a mad overlap and confluence of ideas. And then to sort of stick with that theme, you've got Brian Pillman up next, who is like taking the piss out of Goldust and saying how, like Dusty Rhodes was right to think that you're a failure and right to neglect you as a dad. Obviously, in line of, we've had the Goldust interviews that are similar to the Mankind ones, where we've learned about Dustin Rhodes. The plug in how he features in Raw magazine and how he's kind of being pretty brutal about his at the time sort of less than stellar relationship with his dad and all that kind of thing. They're milking it and they're exploiting it, but it's been the thing that has kind of gotten Goldust over the hump as a baby face a little bit. So I guess there's some justification. Anyway, Brian Pillman says he'll wrestle in one of Marlena's dresses if he can't be in at SummerSlam, suggesting that he's been in one in the past anyway, so we might as well get him one again. And then, as you say, rounding out the group is Jim Neidhart, who says he'll shave his beard on Raw if any member of the Hart Foundation loses. Now, two quick things there. Obviously, that wouldn't be tenable because of the stipulation with Steve Austin, at very least, but then it didn't matter. WWE didn't have to deal with it because that daft bastard managed to get himself let go in the short space between this Raw and SummerSlam itself. He was back kicking around again at the tail end of the year. It's a bit of an unspoken truth about the Hart Foundation, really, between what goes on with Brian Pillman following the Goldust story and indeed, his untimely passing, and Jim Neidhart being Jim Neidhart. The Hart Foundation goes from its absolute peak at Canadian Stampede to mostly being a trio after SummerSlam. It's another one of them things you don't really notice until you watch it on a bit more of a granular level. But we're getting down to like the nitty gritty already, and it's basically just back to Bret, Bulldog, and Owen coming out the backside of SummerSlam.
Yeah, it reminds me of like when I'm looking for imagery for like our episodes, and like the majority of like photo shoots where it's like, oh, here's a photo shoot with all the members of the Hart Foundation. Jim's not there. So it's either Jim didn't turn up to work that day, or it's in this later period where they're putting it together. And it does feel a little bit like from the advertising, like we talked about the last couple of In Your Houses. It's almost like this is the Hart Foundation Vince really wanted, and Jim was one of those, favor hires to Bret, like some of the other ones might have been if they'd kept the nose cleaner there at Canadian Stampede as well. But yeah, it is kind of, again, fleeting, the time that we actually get with them as like a full set, and that was so quickly moving to all these different directions. But Jim is going to Jim, isn't he, at the end of the day? And it's never a surprise.
And then in a sort of rebuttal to this Hart Foundation promo, July 14th Raw, go and have a look. In a moment that I know I'd watched before, but I feel like nobody ever speaks about, one of the weirdest 1997 moments takes place. Steve Austin's music hits, right? But he doesn't come down to the ring to take on all five Harts. This isn't to set up Canadian Stampede. And in fact, it is on the very Raw where he's basically refusing to take a tag team partner. On the screen in the background, he stood in front of the Titantron. There is an enormous waving American flag as he is joined one by one, to his music, by the way, just continues leaping, by Ken Shamrock, the Patriot making his debut, right? A returning Psycho Sid in his school trousers and best shirt, and then Shawn Michaels just making up the numbers, like stage right, dancing in San Antonio to Steve Austin's music, all of them in their street clothes, apart from the Patriot, that massive geek. We'll get to him in a second. And Vince McMahon on commentary just casually sort of drops in, one of these could be his partner. Tune into Raw later on and find out who it's going to be. What an utterly bizarre visual this is 2 weeks after Canadian Stampede.
Yeah, and 2 weeks after, Austin said he didn't need any backup and he didn't need any friends and he didn't want to team with anybody. I distinctly remember that one, like sitting watching at home, and like again, Del Wilkes, the biggest one, when he walks out, like, who is he? And like Jim Ross is doing his best to try and like sell you on it. It's like, fuck, like you're absolutely right in like this converging of eras where we've somehow, when we talk about the pay-per-view, managed to make the most obvious old school wrestling jingoism heat work again and relevant again in 1987, you've still got that maybe Jim Ross inspired, maybe more Jim Cornette inspired side going, oh, let's get Del some work, you know? He flies an American flag. He doesn't need any other gimmick. He's the Patriot. It's actually going to work here in 1997. And it does. You know, for a while, it is an unbelievable sequence of events that makes him not look entirely out of place here in like early Attitude Era WWF. But it still is strange, and it still is one of those where that if you were the same as a kid, you kind of watch it going, am I supposed to understand who this is? I'm supposed to get why this is a big deal. You go with it, but it's just an odd scene.
Well, yeah, let's stick with the Patriot just a second, because we get a vignette of him that means something to me. Not because of the Patriot Del Wilkes, but because he stood next to the iconic USA black leather jacket, as worn by the Ultimate Warrior, as worn by Lex Luger, and as not worn by me, because I didn't buy it from that thrift store in Manchester, and I will regret it to this day.
One day, mate, that will be yours.
Members of the Grapple Discord will have seen me mourn this with the image that I've got. That I'll need to go back and find if it's still there.
You'll get it.
But yeah, he's there. And he's basically like, yeah, I'm here. I've heard what the Hearts have been saying about America, and I'm here to defend it. Vince, again on commentary, is like, well, maybe he's going to be Austin's partner. This is a hell of a night to turn up. We'll learn a bit more about the Patriot in the weeks to come. But we go back to the ring because Vince McMahon is here to interview the boy toy, Shawn Michaels. He comes out. He says, yeah, I'm not 100%, but I'll still be Austin's partner if he needs me. I'll make your mind up, Shawn. But it's Austin's choice, and I get the impression that he's not going to... It's the worst wriggling out of a title loss yet for Shawn, and think of the ground that covers. But obviously, this is Shawn's latest return, having obviously not appeared on television since the infamous fight with Bret Hart. Vince McMahon, just the look on his face as Shawn speaks, as this, like, in some respects, the last night he'll have as a true heart and sleeve babyface, considering the stuff that's to come over the next few months. But like, Shawn's being full Shawn. He's not concealing that like Vince McMahon is the boss, and that's important because the theme of Shawn's promo is SummerSlam, and how he's not currently booked for SummerSlam. That's not my decision. That's somebody else's decision, as he keeps looking at Vince and looking at himself and looking at Vince.
It's definitely your decision, John. It's definitely on you.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think every decision this past 2 years has been yours. But like, Vince is popping. Shawn drops to his knees to beg Vince McMahon, please let me appear on SummerSlam. I'll do anything you want. Look, right, all joking aside, this matters hugely in the next couple of months. Join us in season 2 for Benno and Hamflett for why this exact scene of Shawn Michaels begging for the spot is so important for the things to come. But he just wants to be there because he wants to see the Undertaker banish Bret Hart from American soil forever. Vince McMahon gives Shawn Michaels the big exit, and then Shawn starts taking off his clothes and dances around with Vince, who's trying to like cover him up from getting naked in San Antonio. But yes, Shawn has begged for a spot. More on that next week. To the main event, Stone Cold Steve Austin is taking on the Bulldog and Owen, and naturally things are fine at first and he's kicking ass, but then eventually the numbers game does catch up with him, and then Vince McMahon gets a little note in the ear that I've heard news, the partner is here, and we hear a drum beat playing of no particular sort of distinct tune that we would recognize, and we see the two white boots backstage with the camera filming them walking. I don't know why the cameraman just didn't look up, and then we know it is. But anyway, the cameraman's filming the boots, and somebody is coming to be Steve Austin's partner. We come back from the break, and Austin's sort of fighting back against Bulldog and Owen, sort of not. He manages to like get them out for just a second, and then that drum beat that we've heard starts playing over the sort of the speakers in the arena. It's the theme music of who? Dude Love. In a tie-dye headband. It's Mick Foley with the glasses on. Austin's pulls this amazing face that you will have seen in video packages where he just looks completely bewildered. But out he comes, Mick Foley in the Dude Love character, the character we've learned all about on the Jim Ross home videos, where you've seen him jumping off his own roof, the stuff that has helped get him over that hurdle as a babyface, as he's moved away from Paul Bearer, as he's moved into feuding with Triple H, and as he's moved into auditioning for Stone Cold Steve Austin. But he has realized that Mankind wasn't going to cut it, but Dude Love might. Ultimately, the Bulldog and Owen are able to kind of take back over because of this distraction that has got everybody in sheer disbelief that Mankind is dancing to the ring in neon blue and tie-dye. So Austin, in a moment of desperation, is like, actually, I need a breather, and tags out to Dude Love. And all of a sudden, Mankind is doing babyface spots as Dude Love. He's got the mandible claw, rechristened as it eventually would be as the love handle. It's a tie-dye claw that he gets on the Bulldog. Owen is able to come in with a drop kick, but as the referee is distracted trying to get Owen out the ring, Austin runs in, hits the Bulldog with a Stone Cold Stunner. Dude Love makes the cover. Mick Foley, Mrs. Foley's baby boy, has finally won a title in the World Wrestling Federation, which was his all-time dream. Steve Austin has retained the tag team titles against all the odds. And just before Dude Love is swarmed by the groupies as the other part of his dream is finally completed, Austin has both belts, hands one to Dude, shakes his hand with the endorsement, leaves in disbelief, and Benno, we have begun 1997, the second summer of love. This is fucking brilliant. I don't care.
It is, and it's one of those like extra pieces as well, where like we're on this journey of Steve Austin of an unwilling babyface, I suppose, and somebody who isn't like you said in the early days isn't always giving the fans what they want because he's so not insecure, but like kind of almost overly secure in what the character should be and who he should be. And this is another one of those where we opened the door a little bit to him. We're not saying he's a nice man really, but him respecting Foley a little bit and then willing to half accept Dude Love in ways that he never really accepted Shawn Michaels is just another one of those of like feel good moments that just surround kind of like the feeling around the company at this point. And like I do again remember how I felt when like you do see the two white boots of Dude Love walking out and kind of me and our Peter elbowing each other going, oh no, that's 100% Mick Foley doing Dude Love. It's absolutely gonna be that. And then eventually obviously them doing the full reveal. I don't know, in his book Foley talks about how when he was a kid, Dude Love was literally Shawn Michaels and was this actual heartthrob, and now he's like, I don't know, that's 70s guy Mike Awesome. That's kind of what the gimmick of the Dude Love is that makes it to TV. But it's just another one of those just feel good like moments where we can all point at it and go, remember when they did that, and remember when Foley was talking about this, and here we're getting it on TV. It's just as daft as it all sounds, like you say, it works so well because it is again giving the fans what they want, and again peeling that layer back with Foley just proves to be a more and more inspired decision as the months go on.
Do you know why I think this is so effective as well? I was rewatching this and trying to think about why it was, because I remember I still didn't quite have Sky at this point, so I was like, keep my fingers crossed that somebody that my dad knew would have a tape for me, or somebody in school might have been like recording Raw if I begged them to, and I was getting the pay-per-views, but TV was still harder, and often it was like even weekend shows, anything I could get my hands on alongside the magazines and everything else. But the visual of Mankind as Dude Love was basically the same as when you, like, if you're not watching another product and a wrestler's gone there for a bit and they've grown a beard or they've dyed their hair or they've gotten jacked or they've lost muscle. You know what it is? Like a wrestler physically changes. But in Dude Love, they were able to do it over a 7-day period. Like, yes, you'd seen the interviews and you'd seen the character get built basically through these interviews in the background. But visually, you kind of couldn't stop staring, or I couldn't stop staring at tie-dye and neon blue Mick Foley, because I'd been so used to Mankind for all this time. Even if I considered Cactus Jack, like the color palette was broadly the same, wasn't it? Your browns and your blacks and your darkness. And like in hindsight, other than, the piano fingers and the mommy and the mouse and the rat and all that kind of stuff, as we've talked about, Mankind was this sort of logical fed extension of Cactus Jack. Dude Love was nothing close to either of them. It was honestly like there'd be wrestlers like, when you see those photoshops where somebody's put Steve Austin in white trunks and a silver jacket, like somebody had done that to Mankind and it was happening in front of your eyes over a 7-day period. I liked staring at it. That love handle, the tie-dye mandible claw, like that's the extra step for me. The Dude Love logo where there's a knife through the heart, which is like Sean's thing, but on the knife there's the little "Have a nice day" smiley face. Like it's this character is never. There's something like quite scary of the fact that Dude Love is never fully divorced from Mankind, and that the darkness will always like lurk below the surface with Mick Foley. I think that's the extra little bit of like fed sparkle, isn't it?
Yeah, and I love that part. I mean, Sean's hating it at home, or backstage, he's looking, he's doing what? Sweet shin music. Is that a shot? That's the type of thing. If in modern day would cause maybe a brawl backstage or an AW collision. I don't know. It does feel a little bit like that. But for me, a lot of this, the stuff with Foley and the stuff with Dude Love and Mankind, and eventually, in future weeks we get Cactus Jack as well. it's almost like, because they talk about it now about like, Triple H does it with WWE Unreal, or we've got like this extra element of like kayfabe. It's almost like this allowed shoot. It's not quite the full shoot. It's not quite, if you're watching this at home, if you're 13-year-old Benno or 11-year-old Michael watching it at home, you're not fully, immersed in the dirt sheets, and you don't know everything about Mick Foley, but you know enough. You know what they've allowed you to know. They know what they've showed you on telly, and now you're getting to point and go, oh God, that's that character that I heard him talk about. Oh right, it makes sense there. There's actually Mick Foley, a human being who's behind the character of Mankind, who can also play Dude Love, and they still, blur the lines a little bit and make it about him, having split personalities, and it's not fully kayfabe breaking, but it's kind of that allowed kayfabe breaking and that allowance of letting you, again, as people who are going from being kids watching WWF into being teenagers watching WWF, you feel intelligent, you feel like you're being rewarded for paying attention, you're rewarded for that knowledge that, if we're all honest, they've spoon-fed you on telly. Go back to the Goldust thing, like they literally beat you over the head that he's the son of Dusty Rhodes, to the point where even Vince is saying it on commentary, but because it's so new and because it's something they weren't doing in the years before, it does feel like, you've got this extra knowledge that you're getting to utilize as well. So it is, I think it gets missed when the conversation comes up about them breaking kayfabe and breaking the fourth wall and all the negative things Vince Russo does with his booking during this period. But I actually think it's quite inspired and quite thought through to make this kind of reward and reveal work.
Yeah, it's not. This is not Steve Austin playing Stunning Steve in one segment and Stone Cold in the other, is it? This is a man in Mankind who we already know has kind of lost his mind. So there's like there's an underbelly to the Dude Love character. Like, this guy's lost his mind, but at least when he's lost this bit of his mind, he's happy and he's having a good time.
Yeah,
like there's a. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's the
Jim Cornetteism, isn't it? It's like Cornette and OVW going, all right, well, the Boogeyman's on proper TV now. How do I explain that what this fella? Oh, he's lost his mind. That's the character. He's lost his mind. You've still got that, like, while Russo might come up with these wacky ideas, you've still got that Jim Roth influence, you've still got that Jim Cornette influence, where they're like, okay, but let's ground it at least in the reality of what we're watching on TV. You're still covering those cracks, and that's why it's like the happy medium of this weird worksheet universe we're in.
It's can we just put that nicely to one side, please, now? Because it's about to get really, really nasty. You talked about the shit sticking. Well, it's about to hit the fan, because we're going back to Canada for one more week. We don't start Raw with a, what the hell was that with Dude Love? We're back in Canada, in Halifax, Nova Scotia. We're starting with Shawn Michaels, basically kicking off his heel run about 2 weeks before he does it officially, because he is despised in Canada, and he gets all the heat that you can imagine. He's got the little miniature Canadian flags sticking out of his shorts. He knows what he's doing. He's waving them around. He's being the most irritating version of himself. He's only wearing shorts and loafers, I get, like boat shoes, those kind of things. But he does the entrance where he backflips off the top rope. This is a man that's been supposedly having like another knee injury for the last few months. But being the purest dickhead Shawn, he announces that the flag match that's going to be taking place in the main event, Canadians versus Americans, 3-on-3 flag match, he's going to be in the flag match, and he's very excited to be representing Team USA in the flag match, so that gets him heat. But that is not even what he's come here to say. His begging has worked. He says WWF officials, and once again peers at Vince McMahon at the desk, so pins all the blame on Vince, and this is important for later on, crucially important, in fact, has named him the special guest referee for Bret Hart versus The Undertaker at SummerSlam. But don't worry, Benno. Yes, he might hate Bret the Hitman Hart, but if he shows any bias towards The Undertaker, he himself will be banned from wrestling in the United States of America as well. That is sort of left to fester for a little bit. And then later on in the show, we get the Patriot versus Triple H on the undercard. And midway through the match, as if he's got there late. Is that a rib at Bret the Hitman Hart's expense? He's got there late, and it's as if he's just been told the news. He comes to the ring with a fantastic Canada A t-shirt and his pink tights and all of that. And he's got Owen Davey with him, and he's just making a beeline for Vince McMahon on commentary. He's mid-rant as he walks to the ring. He doesn't even have a microphone on, but you can hear him through the announcer headset going, "This is a swerve. This is a swerve, Vince. You've swerved me." And then in one of the most excellently executed bits of Bret the Hitman Hart's career, and I count this in like top 5, pick your favorite work punch, pick your favorite buckle, does he take back sternum first?
That's it, yeah.
Pick them all, and I'll put this one right up there with the precision. He slaps the headset clean off Vince McMahon's head. A proper act of violence without so much like harming a hair on Vince McMahon's beautifully coiffured head. That headset goes flying. The Hart Foundation try and hold Bret back, but then he grabs Vince by the shoulders, who at this point is like lifted to his feet. Vince is having to defend himself. He pulls the shirt over Bret's head, hockey style. They're basically having a hockey fight at this point. And then when the Patriot sees what's going on from the match, he comes to break up the fight. So the Harts just take out their rage on him. They stomp him half to death at ringside. They cause a disqualification victory for the Patriot, which of course lines the Patriot up very nicely for a certain singles match he's going to have next week. And who's the one that's costed victory in that match? Triple H. We will see you, Paul, in September for a little bit of run off to that. But what an exhilarating pull apart this was. Bret and Vince, one of the great moments of Bret Hart's potential all-time great year. Classic stuff.
Yeah, there's money in that, isn't there? If we were allowed to explore it later on, you could imagine, rather than doing it at a WrestleMania 15 years later, you could have done something a bit more interesting, perhaps, if the cards had fallen in different ways as well. But these are the bits that you kind of forget, like during this period, that yes, the main story is Hart, and yes, the individual stuff between Bret and Steve and all of that is great, but there's all these little side moments going on, and these great angles and this great heat that's really at this point you can take any dynamic in any of these individuals and mix them up and tell that these stories with any of them, and they'll be hot because everything is hot right now. But it is just, that's the period that we're in right now. It's just, they can't do any wrong.
Everybody plays this to perfection. Obviously, a fight like this taking place at the announce table is, it could just happen in wrestling now. But back in 1997, this was seen as like a massive crossing of the line by Bret the Hitman Hart to take his frustration out like that. It's in the middle of a match later on Raw, Farouk versus Goldust, I think it is. Vince's headset was broken by Bret's big swing, but they finally get Vince hooked back up to commentary, and Vince is pretty flustered and pretty frustrated, and he's suggesting that what did Bret not hear what Shawn Michaels said or something? We made it perfectly clear that Shawn's got just as much hanging on this one as Bret does. He's stopped short of calling Bret an idiot for saying Shawn's not going to be biased, or if he is, look at the penalty he's going to face. This favors you as much as it favors the Undertaker. We've done basically Vince McMahon representing WWE officials can make a very cohesive argument that they've done the most honorable thing possible, even though what they've actually done is made Bret Hart's most hated enemy the guest referee. They found such a clever way to make this a leveler rather than an act of a passive aggressiveness towards Bret Hart. Ultimately, you get Jim Ross trying. I think it's Jim Ross trying to plug the SummerSlam $1 million chance, sort of within this, which is again a nice sort of hybrid of the things happening at this time. But then Vince McMahon again is they're trying to do plug stuff, and it's all supposed to be nice fluffy, and everything's still great in the World Wrestling Federation. But then all of a sudden, Vince goes, "Oh no," and he has to leave commentary. And at first, you'll have to wonder what's going on. And then Jim Ross has the news from backstage: Bret Hart has injured Shawn Michaels in a locker room fight. Now, what this does is takes Shawn out of the flag match in the main event that Shawn has promoted himself for. So you're once again robbed with the physical alteration that they promoted at the top of the show. Don't watch Nitro. Bret and Shawn in a 6-man tonight. Once again, they've baited and switched that one. But what a way to do it when everybody is zeroing in on every single exchange between Bret and Shawn, because if you're a smart mark, all the heat has been around these two having this locker room fight. Well, now has another one happened. It's cost Shawn his spot in the main event, but then they've got to interact at SummerSlam. they're just building and building and building to a furnace-like level. The mere idea at this point of Bret and Shawn being on screen together. We're going to get it on the Go Home Raw on July 28th. But again, like really delicately well-told stuff and really well presented with like how sort of you're breaking rules with terms of like involving announcers and Vince McMahon's continued move from the desk into being the authority figure. They used to be so delicate with this stuff.
This is the stuff that really works, isn't it? Because obviously at the same time, there's the real life, stuff with the two of them that's being sold for them, isn't it? In the dirt sheets and for the very, very, very engaged. You can watch it on that meta level too of like, I just want to see the two of them on screen together because who fucking knows how they're going to like work together and whether they're going to take care of each other and whether it's actually going to explode on screen. That's also part of the draw. But again, even if you're not tuned into that stuff, if it's just self-contained watching the TV, they just blend that line really well. And again, it's that elevated kayfabe, I guess, that you get in here in 1997. Like you can just take what they give you on TV, but also feel like you're getting that little level more than you would normally get from wrestling programs. It's brilliant stuff.
We have one Raw left, and they're back in America. It's Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and that will become important in a second. The Harts are with Jim Ross in the ring, who talks about a disciplinary meeting that Bret Hart had to face thanks to obviously his actions with Vince McMahon and the actions that took place backstage with Shawn Michaels. Vince McMahon at ringside, like for him especially, like really underplays this as well. You can tell he's still kind of fuming at what happened last week, and you can't quite tell if that's as a World Wrestling Federation authority figure who's trying to keep everybody calm, or if he's now feeling a little bit personally affronted because Bret's come and attacked him. Like he kind of, that's left ambiguous, and I suppose that's important going into SummerSlam where like so much is on the line. And this, again, every detail matters. Bret's actions last week have led to a pretty big development coming next week. There will be no consequences for Bret Hart right now because he's got a title match at SummerSlam. But thanks to his actions, it has been decided that there will be a new commissioner named in the World Wrestling Federation the night after SummerSlam. It is believed that these actions these brawls that continue to spiral out of control, that ultimately has been, the finger of blame is being pointed at Bret the Hitman Hart here. But other wrestlers that have kind of like lost control. Steve Austin has done it, but who's the one being blamed? Bret the Hitman Hart. So he's got yet more reason to suggest there's bias against him in this of all weeks. But we will get a new commissioner named the night after SummerSlam as a result of all of this sort of like activity taking place outside the ring. Bret thinks this is typical America, says this is what happens. You only need to look at the injustices going on in this country with O.J. Simpson to see that Americans will do anything. Americans will do anything to screw you. Did Bret know it was coming? Nonetheless, he says, look, Shawn Michaels won't screw me in the SummerSlam. And if he does, I won't wrestle in America. But don't worry, it'll keep Shawn out of America as well, which gives him plenty of time to look for his smile. He's never forgotten. And again, it's another one, as you say, there's a little twinkle in his eye when he gets that one out, isn't it? He's like, I've had one more in on you, Shawn. What are you going to do about it? He says a couple of weeks ago, I talked about America being one giant toilet bowl. Well, Pittsburgh, if you were going to give America an enema, you'd stick the hose right here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Huge heat for that legendary line, of course, that Bret said he kind of regretted a bit of the shadows. But it's a fantastic line. And just arrogantly, cockily says, hey, you know what, while I'm here, might as well get myself ready for the Undertaker. I'll beat the Patriot tonight in the main event. Like that kind of like, let's deal with this masked idiot that's just randomly been kicking around on TV. Later on, Shawn Michaels is asked by Vince McMahon if he kind of wants to apologize for the way he went on at Canadians last week or for any of his interactions of late with the Harts. And Shawn says, no, I'm not going to do that, Vince, but I might as well commentate on this main event we've got with Bret and the Patriot. Surely there's nothing wrong with me, Shawn Michaels, being in the middle of a Bret Hart match. What can possibly go wrong? And anyway, it's safer being at ringside than it is backstage. Isn't that right, Vince? So again, they've kind of created the reason why Shawn would be at commentary instead of backstage. And sure enough, we get the match, the Patriot versus Bret the Hitman Hart, the go-home match before the SummerSlam title match. Bret asks for the Canadian national anthem to be played. The Patriot does the same, and then Bret, the bastard, attacks from behind. Just thinks he's going to have easy, light work of the Patriot. There's good heat for this. Bret's getting some garbage thrown at him in the ring, kind of similar to what you would see typically on Nitro with the NWO. So I think, again, this might be the visualization of the peak of the America-Canada heat, if nothing else, because the Patriots only had like 2 weeks to get over as a babyface. But Bret's in charge for the most part. The Patriots making some game and brave comebacks, but Bret always kind of looks body language wise like he's got it in control. But within the body of the match, the referee gets bumped, like innocently and organically. But Bret has the Patriot beat with a pile driver. So Bret sort of looks at the scene, realizes the referee's still down. So he goes to sort of beat up the Patriot a little bit more, goes for a cover, and with the ref not fully recovered, Shawn Michaels sees his opportunity, slides in, and breaks up the pin by pulling Bret's leg away. Bret is absolutely fuming with this. Shawn Michaels is stood on the announce table, just putting his chin up in that brilliant, arrogant, gurning 1997 way, daring Bret to do something. And while Bret's distracted, Patriot gets a schoolboy, gets the 1, 2, 3 from Earl Hebner, of all people. Could Bret get screwed? And Bret Hart on the go-home show has been defeated by the Patriot directly as a result of Shawn Michaels. Will this happen again on Sunday? Buy the pay-per-view to find out, or listen for the next hour or so and we'll tell you. Again, a fantastic go-home angle and some brilliant foreshadowing of things to come. Where did we start with this little housekeeping review of Raw? The idea is you get a big win, then you stand in line for a title shot at next month's pay-per-view. And wouldn't you just know it, right before SummerSlam, somebody's gone and got themselves a pretty massive win. Again, I just love this booking, more so because the Patriot is such a nothing character. And in 3 weeks, they've made his little mini ascension make all the sense in the world.
Yeah, the perfect character for the time, like we were saying earlier. Like it is just, it's like he's won the lottery in this period. And obviously, 2 months later, it'd feel like, oh, like you wore out, you're welcome now, Del. Back to the USWA or whatever you were working before. We pulled you up to the major leagues. But again, of convenience for the booker and just as an extra body to have in there in the mix, just perfect timing, isn't it? And again, it's everything kind of firing all cylinders and everything working together in Legion to build us up to this big time pay-per-view. And yeah, as we said, obviously that's the amazing background that can only be done by yourself, Michael, into this SummerSlam 1997 show. And obviously, as we talked about, take place from the Continental Airlines Arena in East Rutherford, New Jersey. In all honesty, if I was going to be doing an enema on the United States, I wonder if New Jersey might be top of the list of candidates rather than Pittsburgh. But I don't know if you had any particular takes on it. New Jersey is one of those places, isn't it, that you only end up at because you wanted to go to New York, but it was a little bit cheaper, and that applies to like myself when I booked hotels in my younger days, and it's also applied to wrestling companies like AEW who ran New Jersey because they couldn't run New York on their particular weekends, or it was cheaper to get the building on certain weekends. But yeah, we'll obviously get into why they're here on the show and a very interesting segment there. But any love for East Rutherford, New Jersey, as we get into this pay-per-view?
I've never been to East Rutherford, but I have been to New Jersey, or as wrestling calls.
I was going to say you've been to West Rutherford then, or South or North Rutherford, one of their places.
The wrestling will forever know New Jersey as the shadow of New York City, won't it? They'll always try and get a shot of the Empire State Building and then zoom backwards until you're in New Jersey. My one and only experience in the state, as good as it was a day visiting various Sopranos filming locations ahead of WrestleMania 35. Amazing. And the infamous, the New Jersey transit system shut down and you can't get an Uber without like queuing for 3 hours in the rain. Like that's a potential nightmare night saved by just some people. We ended up, it was me and my wife, ended up pitch black, pouring rain outside MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. And we overheard a conversation of people who said they knew how to escape this stadium on a roundabout on foot, and they very kindly took us along until I was able to use my bear in mind we just watched the longest WrestleMania in history ever and it'll never be topped because they moved to 2 nights after that, using my 1% battery to and I think it was Dunkin' Donuts Wi-Fi to get us an Uber safely back to a Travelodge in New Jersey at 4 a.m.
Might have been some Dunkin' Donuts actually. I don't think about it.
Yeah. You needed every bit of luck to go your way, and then it was with all due respect to any listeners we have in New Jersey, it was back on the shuttle bus to New York City in the morning.
They know that that Newark station is not a place that you want to be day or night. I say that I've had good times there when I've been out there. Did the same thing. Sopranos tour. Went to see the what was Satriale's, which should be a museum, but it's just an empty. It's literally they put in a parking lot to quote a certain song. It's literally a parking lot now where the old Satriale's used to be. But went to the ice cream shop where Tony was possibly killed. Spoilers for Matty at the end of the show. Actually, I might actually have to give him this. That was a personal timestamp not to get there. But who knows what happens in the last episode of Sopranos? Nobody does outside of David Chase. But you get it is a fun little thing to do in New Jersey. And outside of that, going to AW shows and getting the train to New York. They're pretty much my only positive memories from it. Oh, seeing John and Way do the post wrestling live show in New Jersey. That was another benefit as well.
Should this be like the New Jersey Sympathizer podcast? Like as an Everton fan and a Sunderland fan,
it's true that actually,
like
the younger brother,
greater arsehole rivals.
Well, older
do you
brother.
think we should? Yeah, like, but the kind of mouthy one that never shuts up about some success that isn't even that impressive. Do you think like we should sort of like sympathise with New Jersey and be like, actually, no, like we would run our event here. We would have our FA Cup third round game in nice old New Jersey. Who needs Manhattan? We know this is the real America just across a river.
They don't help themselves, do they, in New Jersey? Because they desperately want to be like, the extra borough of New York. We're part of it. We're still in. We're still good. We don't need to be our own state. We'll just be part of your one. They kind of undercut themselves as well. But I bet there are some proud people who listen, like Brandon from New Jersey, who would shout that it's a far better place than New York. Just like we would shout that our teams are better than those other dirty ones. But we won't close any more division. We will keep the love going for New Jersey as we get into this show today. As you say, Hart and Soul, SummerSlam 97 from August the 3rd, 1997. And to kind of wrap up perfectly all of the preamble there and everything that's going on TV, again, tells you it's funny what is old is new here as far as like, again, the flag bearer and all of that stuff. Opening at a 1997 Fed pay-per-view with the United States national anthem that is well observed by both the commentators and the crowd. Again, tells you, what is old is new. This is the type of stuff they were doing in 1990 and 1991 to crowds that would both literally and figuratively bomb. And it's, part and parcel of the story that they're telling here in the summer of 1997. Obviously, also part and parcel of the story they tell in 1987 is the black and white, shades of grey, there's no baddies, there's no goodies little video we get as well, which tells the story of Bret too. But it's all very, very 1997 here.
Oh God, this video package. We've praised them before because they were just like, they really had figured out this formula where you have one theme, set it to black and white footage, do the sort of the repeat theme over and over again and just loosely tie it together. And then again, like our age, you say like 12, 13 years old, you feel like you're watching high art, even though like it's just the same like basic premise looped over and over again. This one was the in a perfect world, if life were fair. And it's all about how, if like, I love this so much. So if life were fair, Bret Hart would still be beloved for chasing the title rather than hated by Americans. If life were fair,
who wrote this, Bret?
Oh my God! If life, you think it would Bret until you get to the Shawn one. If life were fair, the Undertaker would get to be the world champion without the accusations of him being a murderer and this being the thing that like rests on his shoulders. And if life were fair, quote, Shawn Michaels might still be champion, dancing, flying. He wouldn't be an athlete betrayed by an unwilling knee. Like, just absolute.
Yeah, Bret's definitely all right in that.
Protection of heartbreak. It was so good, though. Like, is it fair that The Undertaker will still be haunted by the accusations of the past if he wins? Is it fair that even if Bret becomes champion, he'll still be despised? And is it fair that Shawn Michaels hates Bret Hart and he gets to be the ref in this situation? Life isn't fair. But whoever said it would be? You've had the in over 100 countries, 7 different languages. You've had a national anthem, and to complete the set, you've now got Stridex pads presenting SummerSlam. This is absolute quintessential 90s Fed. It's what we started this podcast for. The World Wrestling Federation might be changing, but there are still so many links to the past that we started this journey on, isn't there?
Oh, it is. It's still the WWF, isn't it? It's still It's still the mid-90s, even if we get into the later, more grown-up mid-90s. Those little seams still come in. Those little, habits of the past still come through. But like, I share your love of, like, again, it's hokey and it's kind of been a little bit overdone in like the last few In Your Houses we've covered. But I do love that, like, serious storytelling stuff that, like, it's weird. It's almost like the story they're telling on TV is equivalent to what they do in these video packages, but it's almost like, rather than getting the individual detail of everything on, and you kind of just get the broad strokes, you get this is what we were going for, this is like the broad positioning of these characters going in, to the point where you'd hate it to miss all of like the events of Raw over the last few weeks, but you could just sail in on these pay-per-views and the moody voiceover man would pretty much fill you in on who you're supposed to be cheering, who you're supposed to be booing, and where we all are in like the logic of things with all these characters. It's a device, but it's a device they've been using well in this year.
They were too good, if anything, because ultimately the tail started wagging the dog. Like, as you say, at this point, the storytelling was so good that you could clip your favorite bits to make a highlight package. Eventually, the game changed where they would get wrestlers to speak in lines that would fit a video package, and then the storytelling wouldn't matter as much because they'd got the big line out, and that would be what would appear in the video package. This becoming the formula ultimately like had quite a destructive effect. It should be tell the great story and make a package out of it, not make a package and find good bits that the wrestlers have said and done.
I feel that way about loads of things in wrestling. Like, it's a hard cam conversation, isn't it? It's like, wrestlers should work the hard cam. No, they shouldn't. The cameraman's job should be to find the wrestlers wherever they are. The wrestlers should be having wrestling matches. Like, I have always hated that logic. It's the same thing here, isn't it? The stories get told, and then whoever the videographer is, or whoever the person is putting these packages together, can then tell the story and pull it from the pieces, rather than, I think it was Wei Ting, I remember hearing for the very first time, saying that's all be modern TV is. It's just fodder for video packages, and like you say, that's always stuck with me as well. You end up like I say, it ends up eating itself, but we're still in the sweet spot at this point to kick us off. But like I say, post that we go to our opening match, and we spent a lot of time on the preamble and a lot of time on the way things are at this point in WWF. It's because a lot of these undercard matches there isn't a huge amount to them, but as you say, the dude love stuff that's been going on with Foley on TV is probably considerably, and not even probably, definitely considerably more interesting than the storyline stuff that he's been doing. But as we've been following along with, obviously just having done Canadian Stampede, and obviously Hunter not being able to get away from him, we have continue the Hunter S. Helmsley versus Mankind saga, and we of course have a steel cage match as is set up here well, and again makes logical sense. We are ticking those boxes and making everything make logic as far as it all goes, and that is pretty much like the quintessential example of it. Is what have we been talking about in these matches, both on a kayfabe and non-kayfabe sense with these two. They've kind of all just been about China, haven't they? They've kind of all been about Mick coming up with creative spots that he can do with Joni and not really being that interested in Hunter, and us watching them going, we're interested in what China's going to do next and what daft things Foley's going to do to try and get her, and to an extent Hunter, over as well. But that bleeds through to the kayfabe here, where of course cage match makes sense. She's been the main character in their matches, obviously in recent vintage. So why not? Although it does go a little bit wrong in the tail end of that match, make it makes sense to get to this point and make it the quote unquote blow off match, at least for this point in the feud with these two.
Yeah, I can't decide if on this rewatch I've found the Triple H Mankind 97 feud to be overrated or underrated, because I've always had such fond memories of it, and I've always thought of it as like basically the first attempt of Mick Foley to get Triple H over. The second one would be more effective, but this was like can I get Shawn's mate over before he becomes Shawn's mate on screen? And I think it's like a really noble effort, and the theme has been, when we watch these, as you say, the crowd kind of goes quiet until China does stuff. But here, I think Foley has really tried to yet again give his body to the cause. But they've done a very good job of why it's the cage. As you say, they need something to trap them in because of what happened at Canadian Stampede. But then they've also referenced a lot about how Mick Foley was so inspired by the cage match that he saw in Madison Square Garden, which they can now be open and honest about because of the interviews with him and Jim Ross. They zoom in on a fan that's dressed as Dude Love before Mankind even enters, to kind of give you the wink and a nudge of where this might be going. And every time that they obviously the wrestlers, as is often the case with these WWF ones, almost the babyface has to work around why they would logically escape the fight they're in. It's just perfect because Chyna's there with like punches to the dick and balls. It's not even a low blow. It's just straight up punch to the
or
ball.
just pulling his hair through the cage or something.
Oh, their hair pulls. Foley calls it like one of the worst bumps he ever took was the door to the head. Like Mankind,
he doesn't protect himself at all.
Nah, like it's a bit like when Bret and Owen were trying to navigate how you were a goodie trying to escape. Mankind here is just, well, he'd love to actually win the match and defeat Triple H, but Chyna is trying to half kill him every time he does it. And that becomes its own little fun theme to track as the match goes along, to the point where, as you say, that the botched finish, for those that haven't seen, they've had a very typical blue bar cage match with some just grisly Mick Foley Chyna interactions, right through to Mick Foley having or Mankind having Triple H beat, and then Chyna to sort of miss a cue and go in early, trying to drag Triple H to the door before she realizes, to her visual terror on her face, oh God, Mankind's got to do the elbow. This is integral to the story of the match. He's got to do his Superfly bit and he's not done it. So she just sort of gets back out the cage, doesn't she? And like,
it's awful. I feel so bad for her because it's like you can almost see Triple H kind of barking at her like, get the fuck out, what are you doing? But it's one of those situations where there's no kayfabe solution for it, is there? Because she gets in the cage ostensibly to pull Hunter out to victory, and then just has to be like, well, if I pull him, then Foley's got nobody to land on, and that'll blow the spot. So I guess I'll just get out. And she just gets out and leaves him there for dead. And obviously they have to repeat the spot when it comes to the finish. But it's a shame because, like, I was going to say, like you mentioned there, a few of the highlights, like that is the highlight of the match, is that it's, you know, like say every time Foley comes up anywhere near the cage, she's pulling in and grabbing his hair, or like you say, slamming the door in his head, and he's not protecting himself because he wants to make Joni look good, like with a little bit better staging, like, and a little bit like maybe if she's like, she probably, I think she eventually gets there, should be floating under Mick as he's climbing to the, you know, to the top of the cage, and that's where he goes, you know what, rather than get out, fuck it, I'm going to drop an elbow and it's going to be a hair fault. And I think that's the idea. It just doesn't work in execution because I think it's still running through her poor head. Oh fuck, I've just blown the spot and I'm about to get a bollocking backstage from, you know, knobhead Triple H. Like, you know, that's coming too. But it's a shame because the idea is absolutely brilliant. It's just the execution of it.
I wonder, like, we're quite harsh on Triple H, and he, you know, he's a big boy, he can put up with it. But I wonder if, like, at this point, even he's realised she's why I'm over. Mick likes giving her stuff. Let's make that, like, you know, he's got to be the third person in the room here booking this match or putting the match together. And he basically allows himself to be a passenger, doesn't he? Like, he's he's there to be the guy that Mick Foley is fighting while trying to escape the cage.
The reason we barely mentioned them.
Yeah. Like, so that's all he is. So there's an element of like, maybe he's been smart enough now to realize that she's the one that's generating the noise. So why don't we just keep doing that until some of that noise transfers onto me? It never happens. He has to get with Shawn Michaels to still get some of it. But like, at least that at this point, they're not even trying to sneak her in, are they? That is the story. No. Like, Mankind can't be permitted to leave the cage. You imagine the heels making that plan backstage. Just don't let him leave and I'll get out. Like, that's the simple plan. If this was all real and that, you know, they try and see that through, but we don't get it. And it's a lovely overlap. It's a really, really, again, lovely dovetailing overlap with the other wider story. This is the man who right now is a tag team champion with Stone Cold Steve Austin, but you are permitted to forget that because Mankind's so effective at playing his different characters until he tears the shirt away, and you don't get a good enough look at the heart. He talks about that in the book, how it wasn't visible, but you can see a little heart drawn on. Hits the elbow. It's not a Superfly splash, but it's good enough to sort of replicate. And
it's not off the top, I will say as well. It's wobbling down, isn't it? Which as a kid, I was like, come on, Mick, kill yourself, go off the top. 2 years later, I was
so close.
We've done.
Yeah,
it's a balance thing, innit? He's got a weird, like, his weight disposition is a bit odd. So yeah, I can understand why he wouldn't. It looks great though, and it is cool. And again, it's another one of those, it's a reward from watching all of those segments, and you know it as he climbs up. And obviously the commentary beats you over the head with it as well. But even if it didn't, you're like, oh, he's going to do that thing that I've heard him talk about on TV. It's a payoff. Like, I feel like, again, the most important character in this match is Chyna, but the second, third, and fourth, and fifth is Mick Foley, Mankind, Dude Love, and also Cactus Jack, because obviously he does the double arm DDT, doesn't he, to set up the Superfly elbow off the top as well. He does the little bang bangs in there as well to throw in, and again, you're permitted to go along with this. You're permitted to, when he does, eventually win the match and drop down to the floor, and you get the Dude Love song playing. Like, you're permitted to enjoy that as well as he does the little. I know he hated it, but the little hokey foot tap that he does on the outside. Like, there's a story within a story there that you get in there too, and also Paul Levesque is in the match, but like, that's what you're here for, isn't it? That's hopefully he understood his role at this point, which was rightly to continue to allow Mick to get over as this babyface. And I've loved as well just the broad strokes thing. I've been up and down on this feud. I think I've been higher on bits than you, maybe even lower in moments as well. But I've loved watching that journey of like it being a weird, strange bedfellow situation where it's like, oh, I guess we're getting permission now to cheer Foley. I guess he's becoming a babyface, to this match where it's the full, at least in the Benno and Hamflett timeline, the full realization of no, Mankind is a pure babyface against Hunter Hearst Helmsley as a heel. Like, it's been so effective, these months of TV they've used to get him to this position, and it's just great to see.
Yeah, I've got to say that again, for all that like Dude Love gets this bad rap, and I think a lot of that spawns from, I actually think a lot of it is because people bought into the heel version of it in a year's time so much that they just think of Dude Love as a prick, whereas initially the whole point was he was supposed to be this like warm and cuddly friendly version of the scariest man on the roster. Like the divide was like sort of intentionally wide, wasn't it, between those two characters? And I love, like, maybe Mick doesn't like it because it was a bit of like Fed dust and a bit of Fed sparkle, but I absolutely love the foot tapping, like, sort of rebirth of him as Dude Love, because again, it plays on this idea that Mankind is this like haunted, I wanted to be so much, and instead I became this guy with a dump truck arse and a ugly scratched up face with hair. I mean, Mick Foley's a beautiful man in his younger days, but the Mankind character existed to sort of, like the Mankind character existed to make him this hideous figure, didn't it? The mask, the whole deal. Whereas Dude Love is like, it's a physical reboot. It's like one, those like old sort of like platformer video games where your character gets like a burger or something, then all of a sudden it's got 100% health. You've gone from 0 to fully recovered. That's the transformation of Dude Love here, isn't it? It's like Dude Love's never a guy that like gets hurt or suffers the consequences. He just has fun and gets the chicks. That's Dude Love, And like, even as he's hobbling out again with the mask off, which is crucial, and the shirt that should have revealed the bigger heart, and he hugs the Dude Love fan. He's just smiling. He's just happy. It's like, all right, I get it. That's what that character is. It's when we'll get there in the timeline, but when Dude Love gets written off for a bit, if you remember, it's Kane that does it, and Mankind's very angry with him because it's like, dude's just a nice guy and you come and do that. Well, I guess it's down to Mankind to fix this. Like, he never betrayed what the characters were supposed to represent. I love that.
Definitely. And, you get a point where, again, it gets overdone, and obviously we got a Rumble coming up where maybe that becomes the case. But it is like in these early stages, I'd almost go further and say, yes, those individual character beats make sense, and yes, Dude Love does outstay to welcome as there's a heel vehicle for Steve Austin in the year after. But it almost doesn't matter. Like, again, it's that blended kayfabe, isn't it? We're not really cheering Dude Love. We're not really cheering the redemption of Mankind. We're kind of cheering Cactus Jack when that comes. But what we're really cheering is Mick Foley, isn't it? We're cheering the man behind the character, and we're along that journey with him. It's hard to kind of explain to like a modern fan why this works so well and why this, again, stripping of reality works so well in 1997. But it really does. And like, this is such a success story at this point of the year.
One last note before we move on to the next ridiculous segment. Bear in mind as well, time, capital T, capital I, capital M, capital E. It's not just a plug for your fantastic podcast or Matty's principle of everything, but this is 1 calendar year on from the Boiler Room Brawl. That's how much Mick Foley has moved forward. Like, that's like 5 years of character development in normal times, isn't it?
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, I was going to say we're a year away from the Highway to Hell, but obviously that's another iteration of some of these characters as well. But I love as well that we're 3 years away from Mick having to do this job again with Hunter in the year 2000 and still getting no thanks for it. But I don't know. If we do eventually get there in Benno and Hamflett season 10, we'll talk about that there as well. But again, it's mostly, I will say as well, for a match, it's mostly a bad match because outside of the good bits that we pulled apart there's a lot of nothing happening, and that nothing is Hunter Hearst Helmsley trying to work a body part and make it all make logical sense on the inside. But again, the least important part of his own match, and the other 2 or 3 or 4, depending on how many personalities you give Mick Foley, are the benefits here. And there is some good stuff even for an overall bad match. But like you say, that takes us into the next segment, which first non-wrestling weird segment of the evening was the governor of New Jersey. I've got written down here, Christy Whitman comes out, who is apparently responsible for the WWF returning to New Jersey. Even gets the weird WrestleMania instrumental theme that they usually say for Linda McMahon here. Apparently it's something to do with tax issues that they're so happy about that they give her a title belt. It's all very, very strange to be presented on the pay-per-view, and I had no recollection of this being here.
Yeah, she's ready to rumble. She's put a body slam on the tax. There's a couple of things like they give her the wing
ready to rumble. Don't they? Normies. They think that's what we all say all the time.
That's every single thing is like
we're all PJ and Duncan fans.
Oh God. She's with the Headbangers, I think, because they're from New Jersey. You see a clipping of a newspaper, and it's with The Undertaker in full character and 1997 Linda McMahon, who somehow looks older than 2005 Linda McMahon. Like it's like Christy Todd Whitman, The Undertaker, and somebody's nan. Like it's some great like tax event where she's lifted the state tax on live wrestling. Interestingly. So this is the first pay-per-view in New Jersey since SummerSlam 89, which again is a lot. They can't name 3/4 of the people that are on that card because you're basically naming the people from Nitro. If you went through and said, oh, that was Hogan and Savage in the main event, I wonder what they're up to now. But why this
just is like we talk about 2018 in the present day, mate. That's how we talk about
exactly. A world apart, you know. But why this is significant is because it was those hearings back in 1989, I think, where the McMahons argued that wrestling shouldn't be given the same state tax as sports because it was sports entertainment. It wasn't real. And, you know, the run off to that, and it didn't work at the time. And finally, now they've managed to get there. The levy is broken at long last, and they're back in the state because it costs them less to be there. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Right?
And so we're backstage, Jim Cornette's shaking his fist at like them basically admitting on telly that it's all fake and it's entertainment rather than sports. But yeah, it's one of those. She felt contractually obligated to get her on here. Such was also the other little shot we got here as well, as we had there. Tiger Jeet Singh sat with her. Tiger Ali Singh as well as again, this is another one like the Patriot during this period. A very much young Benno, but doing am I supposed to know this is? And it's not about Tiger Ali Singh who never gets over. It's Tiger Jeet Singh. It's like, he's a legend. Fucking when? Yeah. 1940s. Like, what? What's he doing on telly? Again, was never going to work, but they were insistent on trying.
I've said it a million times. Like, I know it upsets people to this day, but the one, can I say the one good thing about WCW going out of business? No. The one thing about the Fed winning.
There's no good thing.
Let's say the one good thing about the Fed winning was at long last, you could talk about the actual legends instead of these crap black and white made up ones, because you couldn't name Hogan, because you couldn't name Savage, because you couldn't name anybody that was in an NWO show on a Monday night. So we were left talking about friggin' Tiger Jeet Singh and Pedro Morales and asking me to give a shit about it. Like that, those years of these boring Hall of Fames where you would see the clip from some hotel reception room and it was like, oh, great, Antonino Rocca, good for him. Like, it's like, what? Where the fuck's Hulk Hogan? Like, it was so annoying that none of the history could be touched, wasn't it? You were there, you'd remembered it, and even they didn't want to talk about it.
Oh, it was just a weird, crusty old man, like you're saying, smaller and smaller, smoky-looking ballrooms. I'm surprised Vince even allowed the minimal bits of footage that you get in the magazines or on the TV to air. We will go back, by the way, we will visit the 1997 Slammies because it does get a lot more exciting and the Hall of Fames as well during this period too. But obviously, that's one of those characters you would see, and it goes hand in hand with my Nothing Happened in Wrestling until 1984 bit that I will continue over on Grapple. Right. But yeah, that takes us into our next match, which is, as you've well built up in the Raws leading up to it, Brian Pillman and Goldust. Goldust is another one who it's like Goldust is like the lesser effective younger / older, however you want to put it, brother to the Mick Foley arc, isn't it? That they're trying to do the same thing as you noted earlier with to the point where, like, on the commentary during this, like Vince McMahon mentions the name Dusty Rhodes like 47 times and wants to beat you over the head with the fact that Goldust, who is also known as Dustin Rhodes, is his son. Again, a marked change from what we were talking about only 6 months earlier with the way these characters were portrayed as well. But it's not quite as effective, is it? Like, we're fully into babyface Goldust, and we're kind of used to it now, obviously, coming out of Canadian Stampede as well. And this is, obviously, it ends horrendously as far as the stuff goes with it, with Pillman and Goldust. But, like, the nugget of the idea is great. I love that that's, like, something that's paired off from Canadian Stampede that, like, becomes this person issue, and Brian Pillman becomes obsessed with Marlena. It's great sleight of hand to move both of them onto something interesting from a singles point of view. And obviously, the payoff to this does give us some great telly before the really, really unfortunate passing of Pillman himself. But yeah, the storyline here obviously is the loser must wear a dress stuff, as you noted earlier, and all of that exposition you mentioned that I've mentioned there in the pre-match and the post-match. Again, is far more interesting than what happens in the match itself, because the match itself is unfortunately very 1997 Brian Pillman, who's trying, God bless him, but yeah, obviously is struggling to work as a 1997 version of himself.
Look, Benno, man, I'm glad that you used the word great in a description of any of this first, lest I accused of yet more Fed bias. But never mind 1997 Brian Pillman. What about season 1 Benno and Hamflett Goldust? This match is a load of shit. Like, it's short, which is something. This like bad. It's bad.
He should have swapped the house, shouldn't he, in hindsight, Goldust, if we're all honest.
Oh, Christ. Like, Pillman's not great, and like a lot's been said before about, like, I think saying he had nothing left to offer in ring is harsh, but I don't think like it was ever. They never seemed to book around his new limitations, which surprises me. Like, it was almost like he was given matches where the expectation would be, it's all right, sticking with Flying Brian, and it was like everyone was in denial. Like, you would watch these singles matches. He has a TV match with Austin. He works Goldust quite a bit. Like, he's never good. I love Brian Pillman, but as a wrestler, he is not once any good in this run. Like, the injuries have finally won. The personal demons have finally won the whole thing. And like, Goldust, like an active stinker for this entire 2 years we've been covering him. Like, has Dustin Rhodes forgotten how to wrestle? Because like his instincts just have left him, and I don't know if they're ever coming back. Like, he does the stuff, and to be fair, right, the stuff that gets over in this one, Goldust as a babyface, like, plants a big kiss on Pillman, and there's like gold paint all over Pillman's body and face, which I think is a choice, because obviously he's coming to terms with the idea that, like, oh God, if I look as much of an idiot like this, imagine if I have to wear Marlena's gold dress. Like, I think there's an artistic, like, you never saw Goldust paint come off quite as liberally as it did here, and I think that's like an artistic choice that Pillman is covered in the gold as this match takes place, but the wrestling is piss poor. Like, you cannot believe you're watching The Natural and Flying Brian. Like, 4 or 5 years on from, they should be better.
3 years on, I think.
Like, age wise, like, I know Pillman's got the injuries, that's one thing, but like, Goldust should be better. He's 5 years on from 1992 Dustin Rhodes, wet behind the ears babyface with a couple of good moves, like some decent, like, he used to have that amazing fire up sort of stuff, even when the work was wherever it was. Like, I still can't get over these, like, how terrible some of these Goldust matches have been.
It's mad, because I was obviously early days of like covering this. I was blaming the fact that I was like, oh, he's more of a natural babyface, isn't he, Dustin, rather than a heel? And we talked about it with Bret, didn't we, in that first match with Steve, that it was like, he's still working out what a heel version of him looks like. And I think you could probably extend that to Goldust in those early days. But you're right, this should be catnip to him. He's a babyface now. He gets there. He can pull out all of those Dustin Road tricks. And if anything, he just relies more, doesn't he, on like the Goldust shtick and the Goldust comedy and the Goldust, gay bait stuff that they do, because outside of that, he's doing nothing in these matches, and this is a few shows in a row covering it for us. And like you said, to rewind on Pillman, like, I think that's the biggest thing in this match. I actually think it's more him than anything. I feel like he's in denial. Like you say, everyone's in denial, but I think he's the most in denial, because there are parts of the match where he's working it like, okay, I've got to be a bit safer. I've got to be this version of Brian Pillman. I've got to, be this kind of, more heavyweight style wrestler who's got big old boots on and isn't flying around and isn't being who I used to be. And then it's almost like he needs to prove to himself he can still do it, because there's a couple of really clunky high spots, because he's the heel as well. He doesn't need to do them, but he still feels like he should. He's maybe got that small man syndrome. He's not that small, by the way, but he probably still feels like he is, you know, in this era, Land of the Giants, WWF, because it just falls so flat when he does try and do the old stuff and does try and go to the top rope, and you just cringe watching it. You're looking at his knees, you're looking at his ankles, expecting something to blow, especially in those fucking boots he's wearing in this as well. So it just makes for an uncomfortable watch too, but it does feel, even when he's getting somewhere in this new stylistic, you know, way of working that he would have to do in this period, like he tries to go back to the old tricks and they just don't work, when in reality he was probably somebody during this period, and this will be, you know, quite legitimately the last Brian Pillman match we talk about in this series. Like, he was so much better suited for the TV. He was somebody, he could have been on Raw every week, causing the mayhem that he does cause in a lot of these segments. And I do love the stuff that comes after this pay-per-view with him and Marlena. I love the idea of the payoff being that she was actually, you know, in on it all along and falls in love with him somewhere along the line. That soap opera character stuff is the stuff that, like, he's perfect for in 1997. He didn't actually need to be working matches. He didn't actually need to be doing this stuff, but I almost felt like the company and him felt like he had to.
Yeah, it's. I mean, we lamented before how we lost fully fit Brian Pillman versus Shawn Michaels, fully fit Brian Pillman versus Mick Foley, a proper Hollywood Blondes feud. Pillman in '98 as a corporate heel, like a corporate nutcase that, like, Vince McMahon has thought, I'm gonna have to make a deal with the devil here and set him on. He might be the guy. He might be the one that stops Steve Austin. He knows him better than it. Like, there is a lot that we lost with Brian Pillman, but I think one of the reasons why that's not one of those like commonly talked about what ifs is because, like, the reality just, like, manifested something that kind of, like, made it impossible to even think about. You want to think about 95 to 96 ECW peak of his powers pre-car crash Pillman and all of those scenarios, and it was never going to happen. Like, by the time he signed with the Fed, he's on crutches in that press conference, isn't he? And he's like, you're never getting that one back. You've just got this guy that can talk you into thinking it could be great. Even if it, like, I mean, the finish here, man. Like, they do the gold purse, and that's important in the rematch that gets you to the point where, you know, there's cool stuff. Like, they're thinking about what's coming next. But for those that haven't watched it, it's an outside-in sunset flip. These two must have done this spot literally 100 times, like, on the road with other wrestlers, the whole deal. What a night for it to go hard, like pay-per-view, bright lights, the stipulation, everything. And they botch it so badly that Brian Pillman has to, like, struggle as if he's trying to make the ropes just to fall back into Goldust's path because they've just missed it by miles. It's kind of like it's the ending this match deserved, but you don't want to watch it play out all the same.
It's just like I'd forgotten that was the finish. Like, it makes sense in the end, like you say, with the pace and all that stuff. But watching them struggle, because it like in any other scenario, especially these two, you think they just abandon the spot. Because if anyone hasn't watched the show back, like, you get the half of a sunset flip and they're struggling, and it's like, do I go over? Do I go for it? What do I do? And, like, Pillman's just holding on for dear life, but also Dustin's holding on for dear life, and you're kind of waiting for one or the other of them to just let go, or for the ref to get in the middle of them and separate them up, and they just struggle and struggle and struggle. It's like when you see something when a powerbomb goes wrong, and it's like it takes 3 minutes for them both to decide, okay, we're going to shift our body weight and we're going to make this work. Like, they just keep going and keep going and keep going, which does make it look even shitter when Marlena finally does get the shot in with the bag, and then that is the finish, and it's just like, woof, lads, I'd just gotten up, I'd just rolled out of it and found another way into the spot, especially two veterans like these two, because, like, it was about 6 minutes the match before it, and again, not much happens, and this is the thing that you're going to walk out of it remembering. It's just horrendous stuff.
Yeah, it's just a shame. As I say, I'm with you. I like where the feud goes next, and I think they play it quite well at Ground Zero as well, but just, bad stuff.
Yeah, that's it. Well, more on that on Ground Zero when we do get there. But moving on from there, we have obviously, speaking of, again, we do get slapped in the face sometimes that 1987 is the future, and then we realize, the past is still very much a thing, and I could be talking about either of the teams in the next very forgettable match on this SummerSlam card, which is the LOD, Legion of Doom, versus the heel Godwins team here, which is not a dream match for anybody here. Obviously, we got a bit of a promo for inset promo from the LOD as the Godwins make that entrance. But good lord, did anybody ask for this version of the Godwins in the WWF in 1997? And dare I ask, is it along the Vader lines of Sacred Cows LOD at this point in 1997? I'm not sure many were asking for them either.
No, I don't think so. I reckon that if you'd have brought the LOD back on that random Manhattan Center Raw and they came to help Ahmed Johnson in his War with the Nation and then you never saw them again, it'd go down as one of like those all-timer wrestling cameos. Do you know what I mean? Like Ahmed needed help because he's constantly losing a numbers game. He's done what? He's rang the Legion of Doom. This is fucking brilliant. But then they stick around, proceed to not win the tag belts, and have like quite a lot of boring matches. And the worst thing about this Godwins match is that they've really worked on the build. Like, yes, there was the Henry Godwin like neck breaker spot with the Doomsday device, but the Godwins were in the process of turning heel before that happened. Like they've used the neck breaker thing to like formalize it, and they rip the shirts off, and they've abandoned Hillbilly Jim, and there's no singing and dancing anymore. But like all of this, if you recall, when we were watching Bulldog and Owen stuff with Legion of Doom, they run away and the Godwins slop the LOD by mistake, and that's back in April. They actually, WWE want to get to the Legion of Doom versus the Godwins at SummerSlam, and you're just left watching this match asking why. Like I know one reason why, like they're all absolutely massive, but like, God, this is like nobody sells. You have no clue what's supposed to hurt and what doesn't. The Godwins are heels, but half the time they kind of look vindicated in their actions. It's only when they're using the buckets that they're really cheating. The LOD are kind of, you know what it is? There's a little bit of Death Riders coded stuff here, isn't it? Because it's this little battle of like, never mind the fiction. Who's the hardest? Who's the toughest? Who's the meanest? Because they're all just giant, jacked up fellas. And there's like they're all having a contest to who can impress the Undertaker the most by being the shoot toughest. And it's just like, I hate all of it. I don't like any of this. It's little wonder the New Age Outlaws were as effective as they were when they turned up, because they crystallize this feeling in your head that LOD really were dinosaurs and needed making extinct. You didn't think you wanted Rockabilly and the real Double J to do it, but somebody needed to put these two out to pasture, didn't they? It needed to happen.
How quickly things can change, but I'm totally with you. And like, again, you talk about the heel face dynamic, like that was massively memorable to me, like watching, I was going to say Mark Henry then, watching Henry Godwin like land on his neck. It's one of the all-time horrendous bumps like off the Doomsday device, to the point where, like I say, it becomes part of the build here and it's part of the match here. But of course they don't end with it. Of course it's not the finish. Instead they do a spike pile driver. Like it's just like, it's almost again the blending of the reality and the kayfabe of the lad just being like, I'm not taking that again. I don't want to fucking die again, so we're not doing it. So you just get the endless teasers instead, and instead it's I guess a pile driver. It's a similar thing, but it's just weird, isn't it? And again, in the execution of it, and the setup of it, because LOD do come across like knobheads, and there is a little bit of sympathy there for the Godwins, as little as that will get you.
It's just, and as well, like the Road Warrior pop. I know it was a while before like WWE, and this is, to me, this is different to Vader. I think there are times, like if you look at 1992, you can absolutely blame WWE for something like Rocco. For example, I can acknowledge when like the Fed goes too far in how it tries to cartoonify everything, and how you try and, like, Vince McMahon would pick one thing and get fixated on how to monetize it, and that's how you end up with Paul Ellering holding a ventriloquist dummy. But by 1997, like the What a Rush thing has been replaced by the glass smashing, and the pop for the comebacks is gone. So. Like, if you're LOD, beyond the spikes and beyond everything else, what is it exactly that you're bringing to this landscape, other than to put some kids over and step aside? And they do that. It's just, like it's almost like it's this, because it's, maybe this is me standing up for WWE, because it's like the Fed, it's like, oh, what a bloody shame with what's happened to the Road Warriors. Well, no, I'm watching the matches and they're past it and they're done, and the style is, and the time is passing them by, and guys in face paint and spikes is never felt more nostalgia out of time. And like it's then, I know Vince McMahon was obsessed for years with bringing the Ultimate Warrior back, and 1996 was this thing he deemed as his own failure, and he would have brought him back in December 1997. It would have been a catastrophe for a Warrior to walk back in at 1998 Fed, because it looks just like this.
I want to see it, though.
Oh, yeah. I need the timeline, but like this is what it looks like, isn't it?
Yeah,
like,
it is. And like I say, it's there's something so unlikable about them in this period. Even like when Hawk's like, he's loving the fact that he's doing a neck breaker on Henry or Godwin. It just feels mean, doesn't it? It just feels like it feels very 80s bully type wrestler, which again is a thing of the past here at this point. And yeah, there's cooler tag teams to come, even if, as you say, you'd surprise yourself by the people you would see as cool later on in this year. But yeah, and a match that is very much an assessment of the WWE tag division at this point as LOD go over in a complete non-entity of a match, but takes us into another non-entity of a segment. Again, another weird non-wrestling segment. You alluded to it earlier, the $1 million chance that's going on. Like this I feel like we're going to spend more time on this than we are the undercard matches, because there's so much going on in the segments, from Pettingill obviously still being around at this point and great to see him chewing scenery, to Sonny being very protective of a spot, being in a segment also with Sable, and knowing that she's obviously coming for a spot there, and there's people backstage who are vying for her to be bumped off, and obviously surrounded it. It's also, very, as much as we're 1987 and we're forward looking, is there anything more like desperate mid-90s Vince than we talked about it? It's how this show was born. The giving away of a house. Now we're trying to give away $1 million, but by the way, there's 100 numbers you can pick from, and we've only got 2 contestants. Or we'll ring a couple at home, but coincidentally they won't answer the phone, but therefore there's going to be like a 3 in 100 chance that anybody might pull the number that might give them $1 million, and to blow it all off, nobody wins the money, and after 10 minutes Vince just sounds exhausted by it and wants to move on himself. Like what in the 1995 is going on here in the middle of this red hot 1997 that this takes up 15 minutes of pay-per-view time? I was compelled from minute to minute, but I don't know if that's a positive thing when it comes to the things I was compelled by it.
I've said it for a few years now. I don't like the word sicko being thrown around just because people like to watch boring boots and trunks matches on Collision. You're a sicko if you sit through the $1 million chance like me and Benno do and find it fun things to talk about. That's what being a sicko is. You can shove your Roddy Strong work rate matches up your ass. Like, sit through this.
I'd say Claudio, but yes.
Buy yourself a Discovery Zone t-shirt and then come back to me calling yourself a sicko, right? Watch Todd Pettingill becoming a pervert and then have to leave the company before he gets cancelled, and then call yourself a sicko. Benno, what I want to know is, what did you make of where Ryan was from? Because I did not know there was a Liverpool, New York. But I popped huge for it when I heard it.
I couldn't have seen this before, because I feel like as a kid, if I'd heard that would have been one of the biggest moments of my childhood to find that out. So did this not air in the version we got? I don't know.
No, I remember this airing on tape on the version that I got taped from me off Sky at the time, because I remembered living through this, because I absolutely loved and wanted for myself a 1995 to 97 Fed logo key holder, which looked like, even like, trust WWE have to at least get the props right. How great did that little logo look with all 100 keys on it, right? And
we knew they had $1 million spare to spend on it,
I'd want the money, but I'd want to keep the coffin as well. The Undertaker Mankind coffin, having the cash in, like, fair play to them for getting the visuals right, because nothing else went right here. I ask you, we talked before about you want to see the universe where the Warrior comes back in 1998. I want to see the universe where the first person they ring up just wins the money and the 2 people are left on the stage looking like dickheads, like holding the keys and holding their cocks because somebody on the other end of the line just won $1 million. Like, how's that going to work? The poor fella from Norm from Discovery Zone to be like, yep, it's key number 3, you stupid idiots. Like, what a depressing payoff. Obviously, they've got to do it because it's a gaming law thing, isn't it? You've got to show that this wasn't rigged, and if somebody had picked the right number, they would have given the money away. But it's like it's like, shout out to JP. I hope somewhere you're listening and you're well, because if you liked watching people not win speedboats on Bullseye, this is the WWF content for you. Like, here's the $1 million, lock it back up and send it back because nobody's getting it. Like, what a bleak set of circumstances for some kid and some poor sod that shaved his beard like Stone Cold Steve Austin for his big night on telly. It's brutal.
Oh, it's like it is. It's literally you get to see the $1,000,000. You don't get to touch it though. Only I may touch it. That's literally what this segment is. It's so bizarre. And like on top of it as well, like my other favorite bit is when they do ring the fella at home and he answers the phone and they go, "Are you watching the show?" And he goes, "Nah, my cable operator doesn't carry the WWF." And like that again, not on purpose comedy, but like Sonny's, because again, Sonny's got 37 times the charisma and personality that Sable does. It's a shame how things work out with her, because to me, she's the clear star out of the two of them, and it is unfair that Sable ended up taking her spot and things. But the reason she was money and the reason she was great, and she was the same, wasn't she, on like the live wires and stuff, like the way she can't help but sell how funny that line is, and Todd, the professional, has to move us on from the bloke who's not even watching the show at home. It's just car crash, but it's brilliant at the same time. Like, I will take Sonny over the Godwins. I will take Sonny over a lot of this roster. She is so great in this period. Like, she carries the segment too, like Todd does. She's hilarious.
As you pointed out, Vince sounds increasingly more and more livid with how badly the segment is going as it just continues the car. Other than, you say, Sonny and Todd at the wheel trying desperately to keep it from going off the cliff.
And then, like,
and Michael, the fan who's dressed like Stone Cold Steve Austin, he picks number 33. Oh no, sorry, Michael was one of the ones on the phone. This was it. So Michael picks number 33. He's quite excited, and Sonny does it on his behalf, and it doesn't work. And then Vince just casually drops in, "Oh well, everybody that entered gets a $5,000 savings bond." And Jerry Lawler, as a shoot, goes, "What? $5,000?" As if to say, like, $5,000 for this? You're just giving away. Never mind the $1 million chance. You've just spent $20,000 on this. Like, the kid, like, I like the bit. I know I shouldn't. It goes against my better instincts, I guess. But I like Patrick, the 13-year-old, gets his hug off Sonny, and like Todd, Jerry, every sort of like adult in the arena is being like, "Oh, he's done all right there, hasn't he?" Like, and like sort of Ryan. You can imagine in about 2 to 3 years' time, like he's at least, or Patrick has at least come away with that story. Like, back speaking to his friends in Liverpool, he's going to be like, "You're not going to believe it, but I hugged Sonny last night." Did you? Fuck, Patrick. Well, just buy the encore and you'll see it for yourself. Like, he's got that, he's got that going for him.
Well, when I'm next in the northeast of America, I'm definitely going to be making a journey to Liverpool, New York. Because again, I was today years old when I found out that was a real place. But yeah, all-time horrendous segment, which again, slap bang in the middle of this 3-hour runtime SummerSlam. But yeah, we did unfortunately have to get back to the matches, and they continue on the trend of the matches, which are pretty much to a T. Every match has either been bad in execution or bad in finish, and we go to one that is possibly a little bit of both, as we have Ken Shamrock, who's still obviously learning the ropes, and it is still, we're still getting going with him in WWF. There's clearly some money there, and there's clearly, something they can lead into. He was a star of Canadian Stampede, mostly when he was brawling around on the outside or starting random fights with the Hart. Obviously, we were lovers of the Vader match, but he needs to learn Fed style, Michael. He needs to learn how to properly work, and of course, some genius behind the scenes has gone, you know what he needs? He needs a feud with Davey Boy, and as you said earlier, it needs to be about dog food or dog shit or whatever the fuck we're going on about here. Like, this is just, again, another one of those matches from this SummerSlam that I did not remember took place, and afterwards, I wish I could have deleted my own memory of it.
Well, I guess the start of it is I imagine we'll both have very nice things to say about at least like the closing scenes. Not necessarily, I'm loath to call it a finish, but the closing scenes of all of this. Like, there's something so funny about Davey Boy Smith, isn't it? Like, I know me and you sometimes sound like we're too annoyed with how boring and long his matches are to laugh at the daftness of Davey Boy Smith. But like, if you watch the video package, all the roars that build up to this, beyond Bulldog setting the stakes that like, I'll eat dog food or you'll eat dog food or whatever, like the arm wrestling contest they have, where Bulldog hams it up for a bit, and then, as is always the case in an arm wrestling match, like, cheats and then attacks him. He beats the shit out of Shamrock in the arm wrestling thing. Like, he's holding a steel chair upside down. He gets him in the back of the head. He smears the dog. It's so Bulldog. Yeah, it's so Bulldog. Like the table on the corner on his back and the dog food all over his face. And it's all about Shamrock's descent into madness. It's like he's been trying to like keep the difference between in the zone and just going ballistic. And this is the night where it tips over once and for all. And in that respect, it's like quite a good bit of character development for Ken. We'd never seen like just how like what snapping really was, other than like obviously when Vader kind of knocks his lights out, but that's a match that the context sort of makes sense. And here is the night where it shows that snapping can actually be dangerous for Ken Shamrock, and he can be a danger to other people as a result. But what a weird way to get there. What like it's as if like sort of hang on. So like dog food is Shamrock's kryptonite, but we'd have never have learned that unless he was feuding with human dog, the British Bulldog. Is that are those the lines we're supposed to draw?
That's the origin story.
The freak out is like 10 out of 10 from Ken Shamrock, but you just have to erase how we got here. Like that clip of Shamrock, that primal scream after he's decked everybody, would be used on all the Attitude Era commercials, but at no point would we see like waving British Bulldog and a big cartoon tin of dog food that got us. That ridiculous like ladle that's in the dog food is like Bulldog just gets a fist. It's gross, man. Bulldog's an idiot. Like he's basically... There's a point like where he's basically he's beating Shamrock all over the shop. And the commentators are actually talking about how the British fans have stayed up late in the UK for this, which is good of them. And like I've got this in my notes because I was typing. They're referencing that people are staying up late. They're having a fight, and then Bulldog just stops and just puts on a chin lock. Like they are midway through like a sequence, and he's like, "I get down, come." It's not a raw ad break. You're not even given a finish. At least just go like, there's 7 or 8 minutes or whatever it is to no finish. At least just do one of like your little sprint matches that you do with Shawn when you put your working boots on, or Bret talks you through it.
It's surfboard matches. We often said, if Davey does a handspring or he does a surfboard, it's working Davey. If Davey does 87,000 headlocks, you're getting the bad Davey. Like, honest, I wish I'd done a counter of how many there are. Like, the amount of time. Like you say, when it gets exciting, when Shamrock's mouth is bloodied up and we're getting somewhere with it, Davey just grabs another headlock. It's like, this is a house show. Do you know what I'm telling you? This is a pay-per-view, Davey. Like, it must be. I'm sure somebody out there will probably watch this back and count it. I reckon there's 11 different points in the match. Like, no lie, that Davey grabs another one. It's no surprise, that obviously Shamrock does eventually snap, and there's no surprise there. When he gets his own version of the headlock, the choke, he just doesn't let go. That feels like a shoot. He's just sick of fucking sitting there for Davey, and he's making him sit for him.
They've got him. There's like 2 or 3 times where they've actually got the audience, and Bulldog's like, I can hear that. Best get rid of that. And he just douses it with another like head. He's got the weirdest instincts of anybody maybe ever, the British Bulldog. Like it is, we've touched on this about how like if he's in there he's kind of one of the great can be carried wrestlers, but he can't carry himself. But I think it goes beyond that. I think it's like sort of, how we're all like, our brains work different in how we process information. I feel like all them times he was out there with Bret and all them times he was out there with Shawn, it never once like helped him understand the craft. Just the information got like all messed up in there. So it's like, well, I can do my 7 or 8 things, but at no point does he think about the how, the where, and the why, and the end destination or any of it. It is mad. Like these Bulldog matches, I'll miss him terribly when he leaves the company for the weirdness and the how much fun we have with those. Like I still think about the Austin pipe when they run out the toilet and he shoots that look down the lens, and like he's a charming idiot, but like a lot of the time he's a bad pro wrestler. Like there's no getting around it.
If he, again, like we were talking about Pillman, if he was just a character on TV and he's in the background of these great Hart Foundation segments, that's one thing. It's unfortunately when you got to watch him wrestle. But like I say, you're right. Like the post match is obviously more than the match here. And this, I think for me as well, I'm obviously we'll talk about it as it goes on. I think we're at the sweet spot right now with the in the zone and snapping stuff. I actually kind of liked it when it was more grounded in reality, like with the Vader stuff. It does become, speaking of superhero stuff, it's like his Incredible Hulk, isn't it, with Shamrock, where clearly Vince, when you snap, that's your like, that's like his big Hulk up comeback. Like that's his version of that, but it does get a bit daft as time goes on. Maybe not more daft than they're doing it over a dog food can, but that is the story they did attempt to sell here. But it's a shame because we're gonna get some peaks out of Shamrock at this point, but more often than not, he's working with bums like Art Davey.
I would say, like, because of how much we put over the things that happen on Raw, and we put over Steve Austin and Shawn Michaels and whatnot, I'm going to put over this because if I could recommend you watch only one other thing outside like the main event and finish and Austin's power drive or whatever, it would be the last bit with Shamrock here, because he screams, he does the "get out of my way" like that. a lot of the famous Shamrock footage is the stuff that's happening here, and like
True.
I kind of get why they lean in, because the reaction like he gets when he goes super into like this is a proper the fans.
People like he's doing the thing. He's doing the thing.
Yeah. Like they really, really come up for it. It's really well shot. Like I think it's one of them just like nice moments where the universe does you a solid. But Shamrock stands in a particular place where there's like a slow zoom. So when he goes like that, the camera even does it like cinematically, and you don't necessarily always get those moments, do you? But they nail it as well. Really good production, really good performance, and the audience are with him like for the first time. And I get why if you're watching that and you're in creative, you're like that. That's the difference. Like the ankle lock's good. Ken's a pretty intense fella, but that's where the money is. I agree with you. I think
it's wrestling in it. They can't help but burn a good thing into the ground, can they? It worked once, so let's do it every time, and obviously diminishing returns. But that's wrestling logic, isn't it?
I think there was definitely a more nuance because one of the reasons the fans go nuts for it is because they're not giving it every single week on Raw, and wrestling never gets that, does it? Ever. Yeah. But it's pretty kind of like goosebumps to see it happen to Ken for the first time, and you know that he's walked backstage and it's like high fives, handshakes, and beers. That couldn't have gone like forget the match. That couldn't have gone any better. You know, you've just found your yeet. Now get to work. You know, maybe
that explains our difference in take.
Let's just not talk about the boring 10 minutes that came before it. Like, you know, and Davey's like, I got him over for your boss. Yeah, thanks, Bulldog. See you next week. Like, it's just, I don't know.
Well, moving on from there. Speaking of things that give us goosebumps before we get to our next very boring match, we do have a backstage segment with again that man Todd Pettengill with that man himself in Shawn Michaels, who obviously talks about how he's going to call it right down the middle. Loves his little referee shirt that he's wearing. This is when he gets in the line, doesn't he? About nothing's going to get past Shawn Michaels, and also gets in that obviously him and Bret, they put their issues behind them. They sorted all that stuff out at WrestleMania 12. Never mind all the things that have happened since. All the things they've all said about each other. It was resolved then. Don't worry about it. I'm going to be a fair-minded referee, says our Shawn. But it is fun to see Shawn in full, kind of winded up Bret, but also in a very kayfabe mode here.
Him and Todd have got such wonderful chemistry as well. Like Todd loves babyface Shawn almost as much as we do. There's a couple of lasts happening here, right? So this is the last pay-per-view promo we're going to see with Shawn Michaels playing the out-and-out babyface with the things to come. Yep. Get excited for Benno and Hamflett season 2. Benno, other than voiceover work, this is it.
No.
Yep. Like he sticks around. He does some voiceovers for Ground Zero. He even appears on UK only like Bad Blood reports. So in our timeline, at least until we maybe cover like other shows on special deliveries or retrospectives, or who knows what could be the future of Benno and Hamflett. But in the immediate future of Benno and Hamflett, in season 2 of Benno and Hamflett, there will be no more Todd Pettengill. Pour one out, one of the absolute icons of our season 1 of In Your House, of the new generation, of all of it. He gets, in my opinion, he doesn't get one of the houses. He is the houses. This is like the Observer. You rename one of the awards the Todd Pettengill Award, like for when we do the houses season 2, because he won't feature as a part of it, but the legacy is significantly weaker without him. Farewell, Todd. I love you.
You've made your mind up for me now. Like, obviously, we want to do more of these special deliveries in future. Let us know what you'd like to see us do. Maybe a one-night only one. Maybe there's other things we could cover as well. But, like, a big one for me was, I was pitching it, obviously, wasn't I? The Slammies. And, like, that is, now that you've said it, that's the ballad to Todd Pettengill. He's singing, he's dancing, he's acting, he's keeping the room going. Like, unbelievable, always entertainer. We could even potentially do one at some point for one of the future In Your Houses that doesn't fit in our chronology, but there's a little bit of a throwback in there for our Todd. He is in your house as a person, isn't he? Like, it feels.
Yep.
I'm gutted to hear that because I hadn't realized. I thought we had a bit more of him to go, but like almost feels fitting in this kind of season 1 closer, like on the way to season 2, because like he is season 1 of Benno Hamflett In Your House. He's a walking house, isn't he, Todd Pettengill? He's the house. It's like everything, isn't it? It's like we've set it about Shawn and Bret. Like they have to get out the way for us to Clarence move Mason, forward and for Todd to get somewhere. Yeah, Clarence Mason's another one. These guys, Jose Lothario, like they have to step aside for us to get where we're going. But it's still sad to see them go, and that's the biggest kicker. Jesus.
Yeah, that was it. The second big yellow taxi reference of this podcast is you don't know what you've got to list on.
Well, we go from there into again boring in-ring action as we have Los Boricuas, which we've talked about a little bit, versus Disciples of Apocalypse. And my God, Michael, this murderer's row of geeks. Like, did any again, as much as a lot of this 1997 stuff again feels forward-facing and feels very current at the time, was there anybody outside of maybe the most entrenched Oz fan that thought there was anything cool about Savio Vega, Miguel Perez, Jose Estrada, and Jesus Castillo coming out in their white pants that are pulled up literally to the, again, speaking of Hans Moleman, Jose Lothario, literally to the granddad tits? Like, what are we doing here with the blue little vest to match? And if you didn't think they were geeks enough, you've got literally Mark Calloway, his fucking wet dream of a gimmick of all his best mates doing a biker gang in the DOA with obviously the two Bryans, Crushing Chains, and 8-Ball and Skull, the former Blue Brothers, as a foursome. Like, does Bland doesn't sum it up, does it, with some of these lads? Like, there's points in this match where, like, Savio Vega does a really cool running heel kick in the corner, but all it makes me do is go, I wish we had the season 1 Savio Vega still. I wish, what's he doing? Wasting his time with these fucking nerds. Like, how are we, it's like you said about the tag teams in 1996, where it was just like, we'll clone them, that'll make a tag team. Now we're doing it with stables, and it's like, 3 geeks just turn up and you're supposed to care about them. Nobody ever was, and nobody ever does with this gang rule stuff. It's terrible, terrible stuff. Outside of some of the men who appear on the outside of the ring during this thing.
I've got in my notes, Savio Vega is only one man because like his 3 good moves are required to try and carry this awful, awful match against the Undertaker's version of Doink, Dink, Wink, and Pink. I was like, send 4 of them out there. Like God, they're awful. They are absolutely. The DOA are just awful. Like, stick them in your bottom 5s, whatever it is. And like again, I've got a lot of warmth in my heart for Savio Vega, not for the Boricuas. And like, my indifference would be joined by the No Way Out crowd when we get to that show, obviously. But speaking of crowds, what's that disturbance you see in the crowd? Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No. It's Ahmed Johnson in fucking Nation of Domination gear. Put every belt on the man because for a split second, like, forget the Ahmed sucks chance because the fans don't really believe in it. They want to love Ahmed Johnson. Forget the fact that he's trapped in this diabolical feud. Forget the fact that he's been injured to the point where basically they retcon the entire thing 24 hours later on Raw, which we will get to when we get into season 2 of Benno and Hamflett. Let us just live for this one night in Benno and Hamflett doing Pearl River plunges on the floor in his Nation of Domination gear. For one night, Ahmed was once again the king of the Fed. He looks class. He's dangerous. He makes this entire terrible, boring feud interesting for all of the 10 seconds he's on camera. My God, did he light up my face and light up this arena for just a few scant seconds he was on screen. Ahmed, man, always so close with him, but so far away.
It goes to what you said earlier about Foley. Like, there is just an appeal to just seeing him in as an away kid, isn't it? Seeing him in this, what you could have worn, like, it's a black Nation of Domination gear. And you're right, when the crowd, I feel like when the crowd are getting on his back, it's because he's an actual star. I actually think that's why, in the analogy I made there about, like, the geeks that we've cloned to make these 2 stables, the one stable that's not sure of is the Nation. They're pretty much defined characters who you knew, even D'Lo, to a lesser extent, Cameron Mustafa, obviously. Ahmed Johnson, gigantic characters. They're all individuals that would stand alone, but none more so than Ahmed. And it does feel like the crowd are just latching on to the one thing they actually, if they're honest with themselves, like in this entire thing, which is Ahmed, and watching him do very, very Ahmed things that we get to see him do here in this match. It is just, on the outside of this match, it is by far the most compelling thing we see out of any of this stuff. And yeah, I'm even including fucking knobhead Crush riding around on his motorbike doing that again. 5 years before the Undertaker made it even less cool. I always thought that about the Undertaker character. Same with Chuck Palumbo when he rides his little fucking motorbike out and then he has to go around the ring and he has to like tiptoe around the ring. Like, when you're a kid, like, I don't know if you were the same. When you got it, like, do you ever get a skateboard for Christmas? And we were in my street, we were all too shit house to ride the skateboard like an actual skateboarder, and we'd all go round on our knees pushing off with the other leg. That's what the equivalent equivalent to this is. It's like, you're not really riding the motorbike, though, are you? You're walking it around the ring gingerly because you're scared you're going to crash like Steve Austin at WrestleMania last year. It's such a fucking nerd move, and everyone's flying out the way just in case they're going to get run over. The only person who was at any danger of being run over is the production people backstage in Gorilla, because it felt like he floored it a little bit going backstage by accident. But outside of that, feel the same way I always did about The Undertaker. Like, there's nothing cool about a grown man riding the motorbike around the wrestling ring for me.
Somebody's already had to politely, like a stagehand had to politely put the steel stairs on the side so that the bike can fit in the space at ringside as well. Like, make a nice little space so chains can do a lap. Like, it's so lame, isn't it? Like, speaking of chains, I wonder what do you think they were drawing straws? Like, somebody's going to have to take the Pearl River plunge on the concrete. Like, it was going to have to be one of the 8 guys in the ring. Do you think he lost a bet or something like that? Like, he's like, I'll do it tonight, but I'm taking like the next week off bumping or something like that. Just like
he took words from Tommy Dreamer. He was probably like, "I'll go on there. What could possibly go wrong?"
Absolute stinker this one, but Ahmed in his fight gives it a pass. Yeah, Ahmed in the Nation Gear. I remember again that being what I loved about this as a kid. I could watch this match a million times and take nothing from it other than Ahmed in the Nation Gear.
Oh, Miguel Perez and his hairy back. Maybe you could take that as well. Again, we were still as kids. I didn't know grown men could look like that. Okay, fair enough. It's changed my my thoughts on what is possible as a man. But it was fucking again. The only thing that was ever cool about the Baruch is, I don't know if you remember WWF magazine running like Russo wrote like a quite compelling piece about like Savio Vega's like deathmatch past, there's TNT and all of the bloody Puerto Rico brawls, and actually gave you some cool background on these guys. And I remember reading it going, it's a bit like WCW magazine did it once. They did the feature spread on High Voltage as a tag team and made me really root for them. And then 1 week later I watched them on Nitro and they were terrible and they shit the bed again and I wasn't into them. I had that same experience with the Baruch. It's like, these guys actually are cool. There is like a badass element to them. Maybe I should give them a second chance. And then they'd walk out on TV dressed like the dressed here and just awful. One of the all-time bad ideas, this gang rules thing. But again, it's something they would try in 1997, and obviously we'll talk about it plenty when it comes to the Survivor Series as well. The answer to the NWO, it was not, but we'll obviously get to that as we go. But yeah, unless you had more on that one, we will move on to the main event or the semi-main event, or I guess the main event story as far as everything that comes out of this particular pay-per-view. We have the hype video for Owen Hart and Steve Austin over the it's quite interesting over the Intercontinental title, considering, where Austin was headed and, obviously what the trajectory was. It's one of those things where if it was happening in 2026, I wonder if we'd all be going, hang on, we've just had that red hot Canadian stampede. Why is he feuding with the younger brother? Why is he going after the Intercontinental title of all things? Get Austin in the top division. Obviously not knowing that WrestleMania was coming up. But I do like, again, coming off to finish the Canadian Stampede and Owen's little moment, like playing off of that and creating a little side story for the two of them, as you kind of alluded to in the build to this one. It's a built match, and it's one that does make sense from a story point of view.
I absolutely love. I don't know if this was an accident or a happy accident or by design or whatever. So you get the video package, obviously, and like Austin's become this massive star, and they show the amazing clip of him doing the fingers and the handcuffs, and they just keep looping this. I was the man that beat Stone Cold Steve Austin, and it's like, couldn't make Owen look more obnoxious through a video package if it tried. While Steve Austin is just like, even Vince on commentary is still doing I don't know why they love him, but they do, and they're like, it's that they continue to like almost pretend it's like this dirty little secret that Austin's the top babyface. I really love that like presentation choice, and you imagine Austin had quite a lot to do with that. But the walk into the ring interview, right? It's not Todd, it's Michael Cole, right? Mr. Austin, you will kiss Owen's backside. And like Austin's like, and he says backside instead of ass, even though everybody's saying ass now. And he's like, you don't press me none with your stupid little bow tie. And then he just like pushes him to the side. That is exactly what he did with Todd a year earlier when he's having to wrestle Yoko on the pre-show. Do you remember that? Like Todd's been at the SummerSlam Bikini Beach blast off, and Austin's like walking into the ring for this Yokozuna 1 minute match. And he's like, Austin. And he just get out of the way, Todd. A year has passed. Todd has become Michael Cole and Steve Austin's become the top babyface. We are headed to the future. That was like lovely symmetry of those two SummerSlams. And like now he's about to walk through the curtain as like the guy that's about to save the entire company. A year ago, we couldn't even make the pay-per-view. It's like, and it was against Yoko and Owen, the tag partners, like the whole everything new generation is going over there because we're in the now, we're in attitude before it's got a name, there's just like lovely symmetry to that.
The difference in reaction as well, as we've kind of been charting, we're not, like you said, with LOD, we're not quite at the Austin Pop level, but this is one of the louder ones, isn't it? Maybe it is like that build and the pushing past the
shirts,
and that.
New Jersey's an Austin 316 town, isn't it? Like, definitely.
It's just hitting, isn't it? And again, it's coming off Canadian Stampede, which again felt like it wasn't. He was obviously massively over already, but it was like I remember as a kid being like, okay, he's really the guy now. Like seeing him in that environment and like say making the money out of the air, putting the fingers up while he was in handcuff stuff. Like it is quite interesting to compare and contrast it to the last year. And obviously that takes us to the match. Owen's already waiting in the ring for Austin and. They work a good enough match as Austin kind of goes after the arm of Owen, and they do some wrestling in here. But can we even talk about it without even jumping right to the moments? I mean, I'll just say it is going as a match. It is going somewhere. It's very there's been a lot of lasts on this show. This is the last, very pro wrestlery, stunning Steve Austin style match that obviously we got out of Steve because of the injuries changing the way he worked. But it's actually on its way to being a good one as well. I feel like obviously him and Owen have always had chemistry, but like it's obviously a shame for what happens here, in the match, and we can get into, whose fault it is and all of the stuff surrounding it. But like before we get there, they do have a nice little match, and I do feel like this was obviously going to be it was trending towards match of the show until we get to the unfortunate inciting incident.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I don't know if we're going to be on the same page or not here, but I kind of feel like we were. I was watching this and I was thinking, I think me and Benno are going to agree on this, right? There are some really like beautiful little moments together, like the Theds press I've just got down as being absolutely gorgeous in this one, and like there's the body,
there's a physical chemistry with the two of them.
Exact words I was going to say, took the words right out of my mouth. That's it. They've clearly got something together, but I just don't know if, and it's funny how it works out, and we're going to get to how like kind of, and it's not a hot take to say this was maybe the best thing for Steve Austin at this moment in time. Like, was this character ever going to work with his working style? Like, because I'm watching this match and I remember, like, it was one of those, like, received wisdom things, was it? It was like, like maybe Austin said it, maybe commentators said it, writers, whoever, analysts, like, they're having this, like, 5-star classic until everything stops in its tracks. I'm like, it's all right. Like, they come up with like I quite like Owen working the middle finger. That's a fun like Owen like looks like a proper bastard doing it, but like he's biting his finger so that he can't even do the middle finger, and it's like biting a body part when the whole stipulation is that Austin's got to kiss his ass. There's kind of a link there, and just like it's almost like Owen is acknowledging that the middle finger is one of Austin's most potent weapons. So if he can't even do that gesture, like little things like that,
tying him in the ropes, all of that,
Yeah, Owen's a rat bastard, isn't he? That's his character. So of course he would do that. This is not like this is not Bret. Like Austin has dealt with Bret and he's had all these wars with Bret and he hasn't considered what the ratty younger brother will do as a contrast. I do like that as a story beat, but I wouldn't say the work was like anything special. I just think it's quite nice, free flowing pro wrestling. It's like, I don't know, like he never got it. He never got it with Bret as a baby face. Unless it was a brawl. The Undertaker match was fun, but it existed for the distraction of the Hearts at ringside. The Canadian Stampede match could be a brawl, and that was the magic of it. I like him a lot working from underneath against Bulldog and Owen until he's got Shawn for his help, or he's got Dude Love for his help. The King of the Ring match is kind of a bit of a curio, really, with him and Shawn, because they don't trust each other, and that's Stunning Steve was never going to be it, was he? Thank God he survived this, but like, it's good it happened.
It's one of those. There's people older than us that'll tell you otherwise, and I think the problem is, I think the conversation swung too far. Like this idiots.
Sorry, hang on. Yeah, sorry to cut in there. No, I support every argument that Steve Austin had the grit, the determination, the glint in his eye that he would have forced his way to being the biggest star. All those writers are correct. Dave Meltzer, Finn Martin, like. All those soothsayers were bang on about Steve Austin in 92 and 94, and he's a prodigy. You can't believe he's only been working 7 years. You see wrestlers now that have been working 7 years that aren't a tenth as good as Steve Austin is here. But the wrestling style is not the guy in the Austin 316 shirt. It's
No.
not the guy doing run-ins and beatdowns on Bret with a chair, and it's not the guy that would drink beers. And how do you tell a guy with that much technical know-how to just throw punches and kicks? You don't, do you?
Yeah.
He can't. He's not going to switch that off until he has to.
That's the thing. It's like following this like journey along, almost been waiting without like the forced injury that happens here for the penny to drop with Austin. That like, no, that's what he needs to do. That's the way the business is trending. Like you say, we've had the conversation before, does that to get his hand forced a little bit. But I was going to say, like, the point for me, like, almost thinking like the conversation, I think the reason there's such a pushback went in the opposite direction, because you get idiots on Twitter who were born post 1997, and that's like 30-year-olds at this point, so it's not exactly a dramatic point to make. But you know what I'm saying? Who were like, oh yeah, you don't even have to be a good wrestler to be popular. Steve Austin proved that, and it's like, and people want to push back, don't they? People want to say no, because he was a technical guy until he couldn't be. But I think what get lost in that extreme interpretation of things is no. Also, when he does get injured here, and when he does change his working style, he doesn't stop being a great wrestler. He's just a great wrestler that uses other tools. And you're right, he uses tools that are more suited to the time and more suited to what his character should be in 1998 and 1999. But he continues to be a great wrestler. But I think the reason there is that pushback is because people, see it in those black and white terms, and it's almost like the two extremes argue themselves into more extreme positions. Whereas I think the more reasonable position is, like, as you stated there, like, he is great regardless. He would be great no matter what happened, but there is something that kind of works so well about what he has to do post this that, I was saying in earlier in your house that I would like to think he would get to that point naturally. He's so intelligent that he would figure it out, but would he have? That's, I suppose, the bigger question.
It's funny because the backward equivalent of that, and you only see it in bursts really, because that was all you could. But like when he comes back off the neck surgery in 2000, once he's properly shook the rust off, he has a TV match with Kurt Angle. You might remember it's the one where like Triple H returns and there's like not a mark on him after Austin's dropped him from 100 million foot in a car. And like that, and then the 6-way at Armageddon. And I don't really like it, but like elements of the 3 stages of hell against Triple H and No Way Out. And I guess the best example is probably The Rock at WrestleMania 17. Yeah. But like that little run where not only is a babyface, but he's like trying to flex if the wrestler is still in there. He's watched the WWF in the year 2000. Not only is he on the verge of losing his main event spot to Triple H and The Rock, he's also spotted Jericho and Benoit and Guerrero and Kurt Angle come in and raise the floor of the work rate tenfold. So he's thought, right, I need to have all of it. I need to remind the audience that I'm as big a star as Triple H and The Rock, but I also need to remind the audience that I used to be able to work like these. And he tries to do it all. And he actually does it more effectively as a heel. But as I would argue with Matty on our 2001 Fed Odyssey, it doesn't make sense because he chews opponents up and he shouldn't really be doing that as a heel. But as a babyface, there's a sweet spot where you kind of get the perfect in-ring Austin. He's a miserable bastard on camera, and I don't like the character anymore. But like, who ran me over? I'm just stunning everybody. Like I don't particularly like the gimmick as much. But the matches are like this very brief window into what happens if you've got work rate babyface Steve who can also brawl. And it's like, and I don't know. I don't think he ever shifts from being this guy if he doesn't get dropped on his head. But I suppose we should probably talk about that, shouldn't we? It changes everything, changes history.
Well, as you say, the dropping on a head like moment, it is just, I don't know what Owen's thinking. Like, again, you watch it back and it's just, I remember it again as a kid who wasn't that informed outside of reading Power Slam, just knowing right away something had gone wrong. And knowing right away as well something was wrong that Owen was even doing the spot in the first place. Like, it never made sense to me that, like, I'm not saying it's Austin's fault. It isn't. Like, I guess it's no one's fault when these things happen. But, like, his thought that when Owen calls for a tombstone, he's going to go to his knees. But it's like, well, logically, would Owen Hart in the semi-main event before an Undertaker match with his brother be doing the Undertaker version of the tombstone? Like, he really fucking shouldn't be. Bizarre, isn't it? That, like, that would even be a possibility that enters his brain. But also in the execution of the move, it never. Maybe it's the size of Austin's head and the fact that you see like the top of his little bald head like poking out from under Owen. It also doesn't look like it could go any other way. Like it's more. You see dangerous spots in indie wrestling and, dare I say it, AEW and head drops in Japan and in all places that go a lot better than this and for all intents and purposes, is supposed to look as dangerous as this, but no part of it looks like it was ever going to work. It just immediately, even as a layman watching this in 1997, fucking hell, Steve Austin is really hurt here because he lands so horrendously. You can't overstate it.
I don't get it. I do not get it. Like, I don't get any of this. I know it was debunked, wasn't it? That, the Austin Chono pile driver from a few years earlier, like that was always said to be knackered Chono's neck. But I'm sure there was like a thing about a year ago, which I know wasn't actually the pile driver. It was a combination of things, but it's the same spot, isn't it? It's like I think the gut wrench reversed into a pile driver. And it's like, so Austin's lived through this, which is probably all the more reason why he's flagging up saying, you're going to your knees, right? And he's like, yeah. Like, how have we landed here, right? So, consider this. Not only is this the match before the main event where the Undertaker's got the tombstone, it's on the same card where they've told a story around a neck injury with the Godwins that ends with a pile driver. So is that not just bad agenting? Like if they're speaking with their agents and they're saying, we need one more heat spot before Austin makes his comeback for the finish. Any ideas? And surely the agent says, well, definitely not a pile driver because of this and because of this. Like, so think of something else. If they've pitched the pile driver, is the first mention not, that's stupid and here's why? Like, there's 50 spots they could have come up with to have Austin down on the mat and Owen thinking he's got it won before Austin makes his comeback. Like, is it something to do with like the physical damage that Austin's going to sustain? Because they is it this sort of thing where Owen's thinking, right, psychologically, if I want him to kiss my arse, he's got to be as good as out. So I need like a kill shot move so that I pin him. The fans think, oh God, Austin's done. And now he's going to kiss Owen's arse. Like a missile dropkick would do. Like in the right context, Shawn Michaels got the Enziguri over as a career ender. Do you know what I mean? Like, what about that? What about that? And Austin just sells it like, oh no, and that's the move that took out Shawn Michaels. Like, how often would they say that on commentary years later? Like, I cannot believe on this of all shows they landed on a pile driver. It's bad work and it's bad agent in that we even arrived at that, let alone the execution going all wrong and the positioning. And like, Austin's got to be like his knees. Everyone's seen the spot a million times. His head has basically got to be sucking off Owen, and his legs and his knees have got to be like above Owen's hairline for him not to be hitting. He's 6'2". Like it's how have they done it? Like, how has this conspired to happen? And then only in wrestling could it be the best possible outcome for the guy that's taking it once he can feel his arms and legs again. Like, it's the whole thing is just like wrestling is a series of butterfly effects then now forever, and this is one of the biggest ever.
It is. And like the other thing about it is as well, you would have thought, considering the big plans they have for Austin, considering obviously they had him in mind to be the guy going into 1998, which again is the reason he obviously rushes back after this. You'd think he'd be a protected class, wouldn't you? You'd think they'd be like going over the fine. Okay, so what are we doing tonight? No, Steve's the golden goose. He's already got, like you say, he's got two knackered knees. Let's not knacker his neck as well. Let's be careful with him. Let's protect ourselves. Or do you think Steve himself would, be a little bit more protective of himself? Miscommunication over whether Owen was going to his knees or not, because it's hard to watch and the post it. Like, again, we're watching 1997 wrestling in 2026. A rightful thing that would happen is the match would be stopped and we would take care of Steve Austin. But I also watch it, like, even with today's eyes, kind of realizing why, because unfortunately they booked themselves into a corner, didn't they, with the kiss my ass stipulation that, like, it's like, oh shit, well, maybe in 1997, the make good would have been Owen rolls over, puts an arm on Steve and he pins him and we move on. You can't even do that because Steve can't lose. They can't have Steve lose and then have the post match of him having to kiss the heel's ass. What the fuck are we going to do? So instead, we just it's some of us still now watching it 30 years later, the most uncomfortable, what feels like 10 minutes of all time is just Owen and the ref. Kind of, Ale doesn't really know what to do, and Owen doesn't really know what to do. Just stooging around, taking time until Austin, I remember reading Finn Martin's right above it, like gingerly manages to grab the worst schoolboy you'll ever see, because it's all he can manage to do to pin Owen, which is, there's no plausible deniability there. Like, Owen could have literally rolled his shoulder over without any effort whatsoever, but it's obviously to protect the finish itself. But yeah, they almost have to do it because of the consequences or not, but it doesn't make it any easier to watch. And that goes for the post-match when, Austin's leaving and trying to hold the belt up and somehow walking, in the best way he can. It's just, it's excruciating stuff.
Austin, wrestlers are different beasts, aren't they? They're superhuman for good and bad, warts and all of that. How is a man in that shape leaning on his toes and pushing?
Oh.
Like how? That's me like legitimately asking from like a physiological point. How does he do that when the second they stand him up, like that one leg is dragging on the floor, isn't it? You know, like when he can't hold the belt up. Everyone's seen the footage of how like he can't hold his arm up, and it looks like he's throwing the belt to the floor because his arm is no longer the brain is not sending the message to keep that arm in the air, and it just goes poof down like that. And you see one foot dragging along the floor as they're helping him walk to the back. That man has just basically like posted himself in order to pin Owen Hart. How has that even happened? Like Vince McMahon and Jim Ross are speaking like they've just watched a guy die on air. And I think in that moment, it's because they're talking like a career is dead. And they're also thinking with their money brains and thinking, oh, this is the worst. This is like worse than it happening to Bret and Shawn and Undertaker, like business. Like, I know as brutal as that sounds, but they can't switch off who they are, can they? And the two things they're thinking of, this man's health is severely compromised. And I think we've just seen our next Hulk Hogan get a career-ending injury. You can hear it, like all the passion is like drained from them as they're trying to like move on to, oh, by the way, the main event for the world title with these enormous stakes. It takes them like 2 or 3 minutes to wind themselves back up and get back into character and remember that they're calling this enormous match. It's proper haunting stuff, isn't it? In the immediate aftermath, it's fine to watch knowing how it all turns out for Austin, but nonetheless. Crazy.
That's going to be interesting going into season 2, like in those early stages when Austin does come back too soon. Obviously, he ends up forfeiting the belt, doesn't he? And obviously, we get the all that, but he's going to be back. You know, we're barely going to skip a show of talking about Steve Austin, and that's crazy to think about. Like seeing this, take place in front of us. It's just. Yeah, it's again we were already that money train was going away, and there was no way Austin was going to miss it, was he? But Jesus Christ, obviously the implications for his health long term as in jail, and obviously the relationship with Owen as well, and that he don't think he ever end up recovering things, do they? Even going down, even to the point of Owen's funeral and Austin not going. It's something that reverberates through time over the next couple of years.
It's not like I know it's not our place to like psychoanalyze and stuff, but like Bret always made a point, didn't he, of like kind of saying to Owen, "Oh, if you've spoken to Steve," and Owen never did, and Austin took that extremely personally, didn't he? I wonder what that's about. Like it's a strange one, that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I wonder what the psychological reason for that is. Whether it's true that Owen couldn't face him or didn't feel responsible for it. Yeah, it might be, again, it's like the Foley Rock one, isn't it? Where like Foley's like, and that bastard Rock, after hit me with those chair shots, didn't come and check on me. And then Rock's like, no, I checked on him 4 times. He just doesn't remember because, well, I concussed him. And that's also my fault. But, there might be more to it. I don't know. It's awful to think about, but yeah, we'll be dealing with the negative and in some ways positive reverberations of that spot for plenty of Benno and Hamflett in your houses going forward. But we do still have the small matter of the main event to go, as we do get another video package with obviously recapping everything we talked earlier with Undertaker and Bret saying he'll never wrestle in America again, and obviously the Shawn Michaels inclusion as referee as well. I think the entrances are really interesting for this main event, in that, like I said, we got Bret out first. We do the whole Canadian again. What's old is new. He stood there with a flag while the Canadian anthem plays, and he is like every Russian heel in the 80s there, trying to get that old school heat. But in 1997, then weirdly, Shawn is out second as the referee, which is a bit odd, but it kind of makes sense for the story. He's the man in the middle, isn't he? He's been put in the middle of this issue between Undertaker and Bret, so I guess psychologically it makes sense.
Believing that the system's against him as well, isn't it? It's Bret thinking, oh, hang on, like you're giving more precedent to him. How can I trust that this is gonna, like, it's just all more the paranoia, isn't it?
Yeah, and then that obviously gives Undertaker his big entrance to come in last there, and obviously the beginning stage of this are obviously built around Shawn as the special ref. He does, as his promo said earlier, take things very seriously. We get the whole checking of the boots, checking of the ankles, checking of the wrists are tape and all that stuff. And to be fair, he does mostly call this thing down the middle. Obviously, the story becomes him getting pulled into various elements of violence with the two of them, but there's a reason this is well remembered. It's obviously the work of Undertaker and Bret, but I would dare say Shawn puts in one of the great performances here as guest referee.
I'll say it in the safe space I know this is. This great match between Bret Hart and The Undertaker, the best worker in it is Shawn Michaels. I don't mind. I'll be the one. But like,
hey, Taker will tell you that.
This is a terrific match. It is a terrific match. But Shawn, from moment one to like the moment, which I cannot wait to get to, like and you know, with Shawn in 1997, part of the reason he's doing it in his own words, because he can. Like, it's almost like plays into him being the arsehole that says, like, follow that when he gets backstage. But he's unbelievable in this. Like, for every fantastic bit of like technical wrestling from Bret Hart here, and just how, like, obviously with Undertaker, they've got like, it was so boring at the Royal Rumble, and it's such a shame because here they really explore like the physical differences, because the Undertaker now gets to be like the real life man that we've talked about, that has been so great about his title reign. And you can tell Bret's wanted to work with this Undertaker for years rather than like the stoic space zombie. So Bret's particularly great. Undertaker, once again, 1997 Undertaker is the guy that we never wanted to admit just how much we loved until this podcast came along. But Shawn, God, like, everything he does, he simultaneously makes it impossible not to look at him, but does everything in his power to just look like he's being a convincing referee. He's phenomenal here.
Yeah, he is. If anything, dare I say, this is an ensemble match, because as I alluded to there, Undertaker has said on his podcast, recently that he did obviously think he had better chemistry with Shawn Michaels than he did Bret Hart. Again, I think that is proven by some of the stuff we've done here, but it is no coincidence that this is this is relatively well regarded, and it's Shawn in the middle, but it's also Paul Bearer wandering out. It's also the Hart Foundation on the outside, and Shawn interacting with them, and Taker interacting with all those pieces. But again, it's like we talked about, I think it was with the positive parts of Undertaker and Austin in their match. There was lots of negative, but the positive was, well, if you're going to be building all this TV around all these disparate characters, well, the payoff better involve them as well. I love that it involves all those people. I love that they move those bits apart, and yeah, like you say, it's probably saying the quiet part loud, but Shawn Michaels kind of being the focus of this makes sense and makes it a more interesting proposition than the alternate reality would be.
There's a point, isn't there, where Shawn, so Undertaker goes out and beats up Paul Bearer, and because he's like taking his eye off the ball, Bret, of all things, hits a chop block. Like, amazing. Goes for what we now know to be like the dirtiest, filthiest thing he can do, and it's this chop block on the Undertaker, who was busy, distracted with Paul Bearer, who's ruining his life. And in that time, he goes for the figure four leg lock around the post, won't break at 4, and then like Shawn is like almost has to physically remove him. Bret flips him off, but Shawn won't disqualify Bret for Bret's own good, because then Bret can't wrestle again in the United States of America, and Shawn doesn't want to be accused of bias and being punished for not, and then get the same punishment. The amount of overlap from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 there, in terms of where all these characters are at, is sublime. Like, that starts with the Undertaker beating up Paul Bearer, and you're supposed to get the catharsis of Bearer finally getting what's coming to him, but you don't, because Undertaker's dragged back into the deep water of his title match, and it's like, this Paul Bearer thing is going to have to deal. I'm going to have to deal with this another day. And it illustrates it illustrates the anguish that the Undertaker's going through because of the Kane storyline all at once, while dealing perfectly with this. This is like, Bret and Austin is the best match in WWE history, I think. But in terms of the job this had to do and the things this had to serve, and ultimately the payoff we got to, there's a reason why I think this is the best finish ever, but I think I underrate sometimes just how it's like serviced all throughout the match. Like, the amount of times that Shawn and Bret interact in very small ways. And like we talked about in the little housekeeping mini section, every microaggression is to be studied between the two, isn't it? Because of what we know, because of what's gone on as recently as June between the two of them. It carries so much weight. It's so tense. It's like watching when you watch the CM Punk Hangman Page Workers' Rights promo back now, and you can see the point at which Punk like physically shuts down, and like, I can't hit you on TV, but I'm not going to do the job to you, Hangman. And like, watching his face change shape, they work that. They know that people think that, so they perform it. And that's why Bret and Shawn are Bret and Shawn, and that's why everybody else is in their shadow. I wish they could do it against each other in the match once in a fucking while. But like, that's why they were best in class and nobody could touch them. because that's what they know, what they've got in the palm of, they're in the palm of everybody's hand, or whichever way around that is. But performing that historically is so much harder for wrestlers when they actually hate each other. This is the night where Bret and Shawn's tension is as perfect on screen as it would ever be.
Oh, there's electricity anytime they're looking at each other. And there's like I say, it is the most interesting part of the match. What's Shawn going to do? Is he going to favor Taker? Is he going to favor Bret? Is he going to get pulled into this thing? And again, it's something, speaking of Punk, and I mentioned it earlier, you've seen more modern interpretations of this style of match. And it's like, oh, they bumped each other. I guess I know what's going to happen next. There's several of those moments. They build on each other. It feels natural when Shawn is in the way. It feels built well. It just, everything about it really works. It's just, it's almost a three-way match, isn't it? At points, like there's my favorite bit of like the bit where they're all kind of in each other's way. You know, when they're in the corner on the post and Bret literally, I don't think, have we seen Bret actually, instead of doing the figure four, going for a full sharpshooter with the post?
No,
like,
but it's
obviously it's set up for those spots.
It's a title match. It's like, incredible. If he loses this, he can't wrestle in America. So of course he'd like, how can I top a ring post figure four? Well, a ring post finisher, sharpshooter. Of course, this would be the match where you would use that, because it's death or glory for the Hitman, isn't it? Like it's and then what a great bundle spot that is. Shawn Michaels is not Earl Hebner or Mike Chioda. You need something big to take him out. So Bret Hart physically being kicked onto him. Like, what an inspired construction of events that is, to get to the point where Shawn is believably cast aside for a minute. And what does Bret do? Just like the last time, goes for a chair. He's like, oh, fuck this then. Like, Shawn's out, I can cheat. Like, it's so believable in how every aspect of it plays out before you get to the, like, at no point if they like, again, the total opposite of throwing the pile driver into the Owen Austin match. They know this finish, this glorious Shakespearean finish is about to play out. And they even think of the 7 steps that gets the chair to be in the ring, not just right there, but in a place where Shawn Michaels would only spot it offhandedly. Like, I love that double take Shawn takes when he sees the chair. You know, he's like trying to separate Undertaker and Bret in the corner, and he looks at, hang on. Like, and then he's it's fucking Benno, man. This is the business. This is so good. And like, there's a reason why so much of it is in its shadow. Like, there's a reason why wrestling copies stuff like this and aims to make it as good, because this is like this is first time ever stuff. You're watching like the genesis of a style happening in front of you with the way that this all plays out. It is theatrical, and it's supposed to be like, and then. Sorry, I'm still in the recap and the play-by-play. It is like, you shouldn't be able to juxtapose like the theatrics of alas, a chair on high to fuck you and a spit in the face. Like, those things shouldn't mesh, and yet it is 18 months of hatred. It's months of simmering resentment. It's the storylines overlapping with one another. It's the poor fucking Undertaker that has just wanted to live his life as the World Wrestling Federation champion, only to be called a murderer. And then when he least expects it, the one guy that shouldn't is walloping him full fucking force in the dome. Like, which, by the way, slow that down, watch it on like 0.0.0 speed, right? Mate. You'll see 2 things. Number 1, you will see Undertaker put the hand up at the exact imperceptible moment where you wouldn't see it. Number 2, you will see Bret Hart duck at the exact moment, not a split second sooner. And Shawn Michaels take that back leg, so even when he's swinging, he knows that he can pull it if he has to, or not if he doesn't. If Bret's timing is off, if Taker's timing is off, Shawn's got them both covered. No, all 3 fucking nail it. Bret's spit is on Michaels' face as Michaels registers that he's hit the chair shot. Like, you are looking at why the chair shot has just happened as the drool falls down Shawn Michaels' face. It is cinema. This is the business done at its absolute best. There will never be a better finish than this in terms of construction, execution, stakes, the richest prize in the game. In, as Todd Pettengill said in the intro, the biggest WWF title match of the year. The reality colliding with the fiction, because when will you see wrestlers that hate each other work effectively together like Bret and Shawn do? It's normally the opposite. That's when the chemistry falls apart. Like, I watched this, and like, I was watching it in the What Culture offices, and I was watching it in a little booth we've got where you can have your dinner, and like, Sidge caught me, Michael Sidgwick of the What Goes Wrestling podcast, caught me watching it. I was like, hey man, Sidge, come on have a look at this again. And he's seen it a million times, and we sat and watched it together again. And then I did the slow down. I was like, fucking look at that execution. I'm making this little note. Like, I cannot fathom the human minds that constructed something this good. Like how, like they didn't come up with this before the stakes were set, but how did they come up with the stakes knowing that there was a finish this good, like kicking around in the back of one of their brains? It is perfection.
That's what happens when, like, again, all things are kind of converging here in this perfect moment of these characters, but also the brains that are backstage and that are aging this stuff and are not always getting everything right, as we've seen through this show, but they're getting the important details right. But, like, yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. Like, when you were saying about freeze framing it, I will say, as like an immature 13-year-old, I'm free. It's like, oh, look at the fucking gauze on Shawn Michaels' face from Bret Hart. It's like, it is, but it has to be like that, doesn't it? That has to be perfect too for it all to be justified. But like, even to rewind a second, like when Shawn finds the chair in the ring, and it's, it's typical wrestling. Did he not hear it when he was out on the outside? Whatever. He's got that referee deafness that unfortunately blights AEW referees to this day, and WWE referees as well. But like, it's that because he has, for all intents and purposes, called it down the middle. He's tried to be fair. He's absolutely just and I know it's me saying it about Shawn, so stop me if you've heard it before. But I feel in this situation, he's entirely justified. He's done everything the right way, only to find this fucking smoking gun of a chair in the ring. So he's already set up by that, and that's just pure, just kayfabe storytelling done so well. Only, like you say, it's the first time I remember seeing it for the first time, and like, my mind being blocked because no idea is original anymore, is it? Unfortunately, to quote Naz, like every variation you see on finishes, you've seen at some point in some other scenario with maybe some of the pieces moved around, or really, like with this one, directly copied. You do get later in life as well. But it's so original, but it is so pro wrestling, and it is set up so well, and everybody is so perfectly in the right position for everything. And all of their motivations make sense, even down to it. I think the one bit that stretches credibility a little bit is when Shawn does miss Bret and does hit Taker, and then it's like, oh, fuck, I guess the stipulation says I've got to count. I guess because of everything that's laid out, I guess I've got to.
He says shit, doesn't he? He says like shit through the spit. Shit, like that.
But he performs it so well, because he probably could have not counted it. He probably could have dealt with the consequences, but the character in the moment, and Shawn is living and breathing it. Like you said, the performance of it, the selling of the fucking hell, I've got to count this 3, and then being fuming with himself walking off. And I feel like it's not on purpose, but he looks like, to flash back to WrestleMania 12, he looks like Bret storming down the aisle after what's happened, with the finish at WrestleMania 12. It almost feels like a callback to that, doesn't it? As he storms back and he's fuming about it, and obviously Taker ends up following him down, whereas, like I say, Bret gets to celebrate in the ring, which is, again, as you said, the perfect way for this incarnation of Bret Hart in 1987 to become world champion through everything that's been set up for his worst enemy, Shawn Michaels, to be the one that's put him in the chair. It is just perfect in every way, from a non-kayfabe way to a kayfabe way, to all of the character motivations, to the performance of it. Like, chef's kiss. It is unbelievable, and it is the thing we'll remember the Austin bump from this show, but this is obviously the thing we all remember, and it's as good as we remember it watching it back here in 2026.
The cadence of Shawn's count, I can recite to you now. He goes 1, 2, 3. Like, it's not even a long beat. It's a frustrated extra
half
beat.
Second in it. Half second of frustration.
Yeah. Like in that split second moment, he's deciding, do I want to wrestle in the United States of America again? Fuck, I'm gonna have to do it. 3. Like you are, and you're watching it happen. Bret is like looking at him. Come on, make the count. Make the count. Like, Bret has realized how all of this has played into his hands, as you say. Like, this is his 5th WWF title. When did somebody break? When was the last person to win the 5th WWF title? It was Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 9, and it was Bret the Hitman Hart walking to the back because some fucking old, bald, bitch, fraud politician had taken his spot. And Bret no longer has to worry about that. He's top of the mountain. He's king of the hill. He's got that 5 in the air with the world title over his shoulder because Shawn Michaels, as you say, is the one that has put him in the chair. And the fact that, like, and Bret was bob on about this on Wrestling with the Shadows, and we will get to this. The fact that what you are watching is effectively the peak of the act because his heat has been stolen like that click of a finger by Shawn Michaels. But the fact that narratively, the Undertaker, bewildered, confused, concussed, like walking to the back, like having to find out what the hell's just happened to his situation, like leaving the stage for Bret the Hitman Hart, where there are, it's that theatrical cinematic thing of like, he is finally the king of his world, but he's got nobody to rule over. Because his arch rivals have suddenly gone off on their own path, and he's fucking left with a Patriot. Like, there's no, like, what he never realized on his ascent to the mountain was it was that collection of people he was with that was what was like fuel. Canadian Stampede was what fueled Bret Hart. Steve Austin was what fueled Bret Hart. He's got his title, but like at what cost? It does not get better than, like, not to tell people not to listen to season 2 of Benno and Hamflett, by the way, but it does not get better than this.
See, to borrow a phrase, like, I feel like for me, it isn't cinema. Like you said there, it's theater, isn't it? It's all of the staging of it, the production of it. It's all of it. Like, is anything more pro wrestling than this? Because actually, if you were being a boring star match rater, like, grapple up, RIP in peace, I was once one at one point in my life. There was probably a point where dry collision matches might appeal to Benno. Like, and if you just mark this as a dry match, you might not even give it the higher rating. I had a little cursory look at what people were giving it on Cage Match and what Meltzer gave it, and there's some quite low ratings out there for the match. But this is one where I think me and you would agree, and unfortunately, it happens every now and then. Me and Matty would agree. You're missing the important point here. The important point here is, as you've just alluded to, the story we've told with all these characters, not only just in, to get us to this place, and not even just in the execution of the ensemble cast that pull this match together and the story that underpins it all. It's everything that comes after it as well. This is why it's probably better than cinema, why it's better than theatre, because what have we got now? We've got a Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart grudge match. Can't see anything going wrong with that, obviously, coming up at Survivor Series, but we'll get there. But also, we've got the justification for the greatest series that will be, to give you the Season 2 Benno and Hamflett preview. Probably my favourite thing in WWF history is this version Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels that we're born for now, because basically TV now and the pay-per-view matches are just pretty much fodder for Undertaker wanting to hit Shawn Michaels as hard in the head with the chair as Shawn Michaels hits him in the head with the chair, and variations of that as the characters change. But like, all that is justified now, and we're going to get into that universe too. Like, we've set up, even with Steve Austin being taken out, a Money, Autumn and Winter, but those two programs are ready made now, and it's just all done with the stroke of booking genius that is the last 30 seconds of the match, but really the full 30 minutes of it and the theatre that we got here.
Imagine what might actually happen on the one night that Undertaker actually gets to be a murderer and getting revenge. I wonder what might occur on that night as well. Like, every last little detail thought about. We could do another 4 hours on this podcast. We could do another 10 podcasts on this.
That's how long the Bad Blood one's going to be, mate.
I will never not be convinced that this is the single greatest thing. And I say that, like, knowing what's to come for Bret. And there is almost like how, like, it's quite interesting that there is no glory to the crowning. Like, he's in the ring, he's got a flag slung over his shoulder, the Harts join him in the ring, Pillman's lost that night, Owen's out there, I think. Yeah. And like,
Jim's on the verge of sacking.
The fans are just clearing out the building. Like the people, you can start to see that. I think the yellow of the arena in East Rutherford, because people are just leaving. And again, it's this idea of like Bret has won, but at what cost? Like, now he still gets to wrestle in the United States of America. That hates him. Like, is that belt, was it worth it, Bret? And this is not the kind of the pyro and the WrestleMania 10. It's the polar opposite, and it's cold because Bret Hart is the world champion once again. It's like, it's a perfect heel celebration of a guy who in that moment thinks he's got it all, but has yet to realize that he's kind of lost what he can never get back. There's like, there will never be, discounting 2010, there'll never be Bret the Hitman Hart wrestling babyface ever again in this company. We had it last Monday on Raw in Halifax, Nova Scotia in the flag match. He will never be like what he's chasing ultimately is what he's never going to be again. And the celebration of him as the last WWF champion, the last time he'll hold that belt, It's like a visual representation of that. The fans are already clearing out. Like, your time has passed, but like, here's your sort of here's your little participation trophy. Here's Alex Ferguson's last league title. Here's that sort of like testimonial run you get with a belt. Enjoy Del Wilkes, Bret. Like, the two main eventers have already left. Like, it's sort of there's a real tragedy to it through the smiles and through the celebration. And this is the opposite of Canadian Stampede, isn't it? The ring is not full of family members and celebration. The building is emptying. There is only the hearts that remain. It's like I love the business, Benno. Like, there's nothing as good as professional wrestling when it's done like this. Nothing in the world touches wrestling when it's as good as this.
In 1997, that's the line at the end. But I mean, what a teaser for season 2 of Benno and Hamflett, which is pretty much what this show has been. But like I say, all those things set up, getting to see that downfall. We're gonna watch it back in real time. I now can't wait. I haven't watched this thing back again for all the fallout to come. But yeah, any other closing thoughts on the show itself before we do get out of here and we like I say, do move on to the thing season 2? Like, it's one of those. It's been an interesting show, this one, to revisit, because again, it's the first one we reviewed. Obviously, there isn't an In Your House, so I'm not going to judge it like an In Your House. I think the standards are probably higher for a SummerSlam, and until we got to like those last closing moments of the main event, I was actually questioning myself a little bit, like, why do I regard this so well? Why do I remember SummerSlam 97 so well? And it's like, well, yeah, it's because of the newsworthy moments of Austin, but also because of the glory that you kind of get in that at least closing sequence of the main event and the 25 minutes before it. But interesting one to go back and obviously ready ourselves for the 3-hour pay-per-view cycle that's to come.
Maybe I'm too generous a marker, but I would apply this to AEW, and I would apply it back then to WCW as well. This show is the most conclusive evidence you will get, in my opinion, that get your main event house in order, get your top stars in order, and you can serve up piles and piles of shit, and it will not matter. Like, the undercard here is dire, far worse than some of the In Your Houses we've watched. Maybe it's because it's stretched across 3 hours than 2. Maybe this is something for us to start getting used to. But like, the main events and the big stuff and the big stars, so over, so fantastic. Concepts so like electrifying and future ready and all that kind of stuff that like you wave away the rest of it. Like, in a heartbeat, wave away all of this. Hart and Soul, SummerSlam 1997, vitally important, checkpoint, however you want to phrase it. And that includes the Godwins and the LOD. That includes the Bariquas and DOA. You can have it all, because when you get to what you're actually there for, you could not feel more satisfied with it. It's a lesson. It is honestly a lesson. Like, get the top right and the rest. Not that I'm saying you want it to be rubbish, but you can certainly get away with it because that's what people are going to take away with them. The big stuff matters. The rest is gravy.
Massively so. Well, what a bridge this has been between Benno Hamflett season 1 and season 2. I'll let Michael close us out with the usual spiel, but just as a reminder, like I say, if hopefully you've enjoyed the special delivery landing in your podcast feeds, we will be back to something resembling a regular schedule, but you are going to have to bear with us. It won't be in 2 weeks for the next Housekeeping, but you have only got 4 to wait for the season 2 of Benno and Hamflett, Easter Sunday, the 5th of April, 2026. I think I called it the 6th on air on various shows. You know what I mean, though. Easter Sunday. That's when we're coming back for season 2. But yeah, with everything set up there, Michael, I cannot wait to get there, and it'll be here before you know it, folks.
I can't wait. Yeah, for people to join us, we'll be doing a housekeeping ahead of In Your House Ground Zero, or should that be Ground Zero in Your House? More on that big
In Your House, Benno and Hamflett, maybe.
Includes more than just an extra hour as we head into season 2. We'll talk about the big change. We'll talk about everything going on post SummerSlam, leading into that September pay-per-view and all the kind of changes that happened as a result of the card. So yeah, feel free to join us for that one. And indeed, nominations, I guess, are back open for 5-star match reviews. Leave us a 5-star review. Stick in there a request of a match. It could be from the new generation. It could be from 97. It could be from 87. It could be from any time you want, featuring any wrestlers. Leave it with a 5-star review in the little comments box. Get us up them charts. Get us rigging the algorithms, and we will definitely get around to it. We've got a nice little selection of ones remaining heading into season 2, but we're always looking for more suggestions. We love when a suggestion drops in that we can tie to the stuff that we're talking about. So give us one of those 5-star reviews, stick it in the comments, and we will get to that on future editions of Benno and Hamflett in Your House. I guess in the meantime, if you're interested in any of the other bollocks that I do when I'm not unfortunately, able to talk about Bret and Shawn and The Undertaker at SummerSlam 1997. You can search my name at What Culture Wrestling for all the weekly wrestling podcasts. We review Raw, SmackDown, AEW Dynamite, pay-per-views, premium live events, and depending on when you listen to this, we are coming up on WrestleMania weekend in Las Vegas, Nevada. If you are making the trip to Las Vegas, come and join us at What Culture for 4 free entry nights of entertainment in Las Vegas. There's going to be a SmackDown watch party. There's going to be Simon Miller's ups and downs of WrestleMania night 1 and night 2. There's going to be a Raw after WrestleMania watch party. That's going to be taking place at New York, and Luxor, respectively. We are taking over the Strip. All the information is available to view sort of on our website, on our YouTube channel. Search What Culture Wrestling, search Las Vegas. Anything's possible in the pyramid. If you're over there in Las Vegas, and yes, I'm not speaking to you, the listener, I'm speaking to Benno down this lens. If you are over there in Las Vegas, get yourself along to one of our free entry events. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. Enjoy WrestleMania if I don't see you. And I think that's all my plugs. And join the Grapple Discord while you're at it. It's the best place to talk wrestling on the internet. I'm only on X to do WrestleMania weekend plugs for work. All my other wrestling conversation now happens over there. It's fantastic stuff.
Oh, well, I'm glad to have Michael in our Discord. Yeah, I wish I was out in Vegas. I still regret it. We haven't talked the elephant in the room. I am back in Vietnam. Maybe we'll talk it on the next housekeeping. But I always regret last year when my flights got delayed and I didn't stop off in Vegas on the way out. Couldn't have made it work this year. Maybe next year I could stop off at WrestleMania. We'll see. I'm not sure if morally I'm certain I want to do that or not. But yeah, I'm gonna wish I'm in Vegas that week. So definitely, if you're in town, look up Michael and the lads. It'll be incredible stuff going on. And obviously, yeah, for us, we'll Grapple all the normal shows will be taking place over Mania weekend, and obviously we'll be covering all the indies going on and everything else going on from the comfort of my own home out here in Vietnam as well. But just a quick plug, yeah, obviously over on Grapple as well. Patreon, obviously we'll keep firing out shows, and obviously in the coming month we have the Razor Ramon Deep Cut coming up, which again, fans of this show would I imagine you would very much enjoy that as we talk Scott Hall in the WWF, the matches, the angles, but like I say, not Scott Hall and not obviously the Diamond Stud or anything like that. Just pure Razor Ramon. So the story of that will be available in your feeds by the time you listen to this, as well as our March mixtape. Obviously, we got the couple of King of the Mountain shows, cracking Ask Grapple in the can, as well as our usual 5-to-1 shows and everything else coming up in April. So yeah, check all of that out too.
And I guess all there is to say until next time. Well, not so much for the house, but thank you for the special delivery.
Yeah, Naito.